There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, it's episode 155.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a pretty brutal one. I don't know much about this one. Jay was telling me some of it. Said this one involves lots of brutal torture and shit like that. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
super fun. This
Yeah.
was this was actually a serial killer that I didn't know a great deal about. I had heard of him, but I didn't really know that much about him. But this was also a topic request. I can't remember who requested it because it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But this is Robert Bob Berdella, otherwise known as the Kansas City Butcher or the Collector.
The Collector.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been doing a lot of serial killer and true crime lately because that's what people have requested.
Yeah.
So we haven't done paranormal, but we'll get back on paranormal soon.
Yeah, and other things
And
too,
mysteries
like
and stuff,
historical mysteries and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because I like doing that stuff too. But,
Yeah.
you know, I feel bad because sometimes we get so many requests for like different true crime cases, and it's like I want to get around to all of them, but you know.
Yeah, true crime's probably one of the biggest segments or one of the biggest demands online. You know what I mean?
It does
Just-
seem like. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like a lot of the top podcasts and stuff like that are.
Well,
true
there's
crime
there's a
podcasts.
lot of paranormal out there already. You know,
True.
most of it not very good. So you know, and we covered a lot of the main stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of
Yeah.
like the big main topics and
Yeah.
paranormal stuff. I mean, you know, there's always other things.
We'll
but,
get back to it. There's still some of that UFO stuff going on with the Navy
Yeah.
and the military coming out saying that we see stuff, and you know I've been listening to some of those pilots who witnessed it. You know, damn Tic Tac UFOs and shit like that, and there's something to it. I even saw the videos. Pilot locked onto something moving down at a high rate of speed close to the surface of the water. I don't know if it was a cruise missile or what, but it moving awful fast, and I didn't see any kind of heat signature coming out of the back where there'd be a rocket or a jet propelling it. It's just like a little dot moving fast.
Yeah.
And you got a missile lock on it. Well, it wasn't a missile lock. It was some kind of optical lock. You know, they have in the pods underneath the bottom of the aircraft. They might be inside now. You could get an optical lock on something and everybody can see it in the team. You know, they can share the data and stuff, you know, so you can see
Yeah.
far away, you know, moving objects. And it was something down there. He got a lock on it.
Little Tic Tacs flying around.
Yeah, it looked like a little dot, you know, and they said it was going hypersonic, you know, in a straight line too. So you're not talking about a bullet or a projectile. It was something flying. It was pretty weird.
Yeah, well, we'll have to do like a whole
Yeah.
show about that one of these days.
Yeah, we'll have to collect some of the best new stuff that they have.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Baby Cookie just came in the room in case you guys
Yeah.
saw the door open. It's not poltergeist. It's like she just pushes
She ran in here.
the door open, and then she jumped up behind the laptop. So if the camera starts to move, you'll know why, because her little butt is gonna be scooting backward.
Yeah, I'm just kicking off with the Kugelkan drinking. So I'm not really.
Yeah, we did record some stuff earlier, but
Not
we recorded
revved
this
up yet.
stuff. Yeah, we recorded this stuff this afternoon.
I was
so we're
sober.
we were totally sober when we did that.
Yeah,
Because we didn't want to drink. It was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I'm
It's
like, I don't
Friday
wanna-
night though. Now we're gonna do a show, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a 1970s style show, full on Merv Griffin, man.
Merv Griffin.
Where all the guests are
You're
drinking
the
and everything.
elevator killer.
The guests are drinking. Merv is drinking. Everybody at home is drinking. You
Baby
know.
Cookie's not drinking though.
No, she's not drinking.
She's playing with her mint toy.
It's just right out of the damn Tarantino movies. The way it really was, you know.
Gonna do a little hullabaloo dance like
Yeah.
we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So before we get into the main topic and everyone gets all depressed and bummed out because this is kind of a rough topic, didn't somebody on YouTube ask about our tattoos?
Yeah, I think somebody did.
And
yeah.
didn't we say that we should say something about them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Show them what you got there.
all right. Well, basically this one, okay, well, I'll get into this later, but actually let me do this one first. I'm like looking at the camera and I'm like opposite because I'm stupid. All right. So this one is clearly Anubis, you know?
Yeah.
And I just got that one because I always was, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was super into Egyptian mythology.
Yeah.
And I particularly always liked the mythology about Anubis, like weighing your heart against the feather, like in the thing, like the judgment, to see if you get to go to the good heaven place or the bad place. Yeah. So I just always liked that. Plus, I always just thought he was like kick-ass and cool looking. That's about pretty much the only. There's no deeper meaning to it. Now this one here.
I started off as an owl.
It actually, like up here, I actually had my first tattoo, which was like a really little, like a tribal-looking barn owl. And I'd had it for so long and it was so thick and black that it had started to fade and like all the lines had run together. So we knew a guy named Jacob. Well, we still know him. We just haven't seen him in a long time.
He's a celebrity up in Colombia, actually. I keep seeing him show up still. Look like the devil. He's a cool guy. Yeah,
he's a cool guy. He does all those kind of like suspension shows with like they put the hooks through your back and
he's been on talk
like
shows
big bat
and
wings and stuff. Yeah. But he's kind of like famous in Colombia.
Yeah.
And he's also a tattoo artist.
Yeah. He was an army guy too. He was a sniper. The Colombian
that's
Army.
right.
So we had a lot in common when he was here. But he married a friend of ours, but then they broke up and he went back home.
And then he went back home, So he lived here for a little while. Yeah. But he was also a tattoo artist, so I told him, and he was a really good artist, so I said, well, I want something on this arm to cover that up, and, can you just, like, make something that's sort of around the owl theme, but I just basically let him draw whatever he wanted, and just let him put it on there. So I actually, I got this tattoo done all in one session. Normally they don't do that. Normally they would do the outline and then you'd go back and get all the color. But
we had this one done in the house. It's not quite legit. But
he
was a friend of ours. He did a house call.
Well, he did all the outlines.
He's professional.
And then he was like, "Well, are you okay? Like, you want to?" I was like, "Yeah, might as well. I don't know when the hell you're going to get back down here again to do the rest of it." So I sat there for 11 hours.
Yeah, we were talking. I was watching all kinds of movies.
Then you fell asleep. His wife fell asleep.
Yeah. I
was just sitting there.
I thought maybe I was going to get some work done, but no, it was too late.
Yeah, he wasn't here beyond that. But I really, really like this. I mean, eventually I'd like to kind of get the whole arm done and get this whole arm done. I honestly, you know what I've often dreamed of? It's like I just never have the money to do it. I've always wanted a back piece that was based on Edgar Allan Poe's Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah.
Like with the clock and the thing and everything. I would fucking love that. But like I said, that would cost like $1 zillion, and I just don't have the money to do it. But I've always wanted one.
My tattoos are boring. I got army tattoos. If people want to see them, I guess. This is actually like, let's see if I can see it. This is actually like 3 different tattoos. I got this one on a 1-day pass in the middle of basic training, or at the end. We were going from basic training. I think it was right before graduation. That's when it was. And that was right outside Sand Hill. I was drunk when I got that one done. It just said infantry. Got a little American Navy. And then several years after that, when I was in the 101st, I got this one. This was a barracks tattoo, actually. And then when I joined the recon platoon, they put recon right there on top of it. That was another barracks tattoo.
I didn't realize you had them done 3 separate times.
Yeah, it's 3 separate times. It just started adding on to it.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was just like 2, like 1.
No, and this was back in the 90s. You know what I mean? The standards were lower for tattoos back then.
True.
You know what I'm talking about? They were smaller, and the whole idea of having sleeves and shit really wasn't around. So they were kind of, army tattoos in this era was kind of like a fucking prison tattoo, really. That's a lot of times that's what the quality was.
It's funny, like, because it wasn't that long ago that people, like, still looked askance at you if you had tattoos, like you were some kind of criminal or circus freak or something.
Yeah, they were kind of, I remember back in the time when I got this one, my buddy went out and got one of the Predator, and it looked fucking fantastic. I was like, damn, I should have got something like that.
Why didn't I get the Predator?
Why didn't I get some shit like that? But, I don't know. I'll probably, maybe one day if I ever get around to it, just kind of have that all blended into a short sleeve or something.
Yeah.
I really thought he was going to do it for me.
Yeah, he just, like I said,
I was going to say, man, go crazy. Just do what you want with it.
Because he's such a good artist, and, like, I trusted him to just...
And I just said, do like an American military theme. He was of course, he was ex-military. He loved the American Army. He loved all kind of military history. So, he was the right man for the job, really. He said, yeah, just go crazy. But he didn't get, you took up all the time. And then the next day, we didn't really see him after that, did we?
Not really, maybe a couple times.
Yeah,
I think
they got divorced a few months after that.
Yeah, they weren't very long.
Very long.
But yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting, when I got my first tattoo, the one that this covered up, it was still the 1990s,
Yeah.
and I got it done in Daytona, which of course is like a big biker hangout. So there was a tattoo shop just right around the corner from my grandma's house, and so like I went over there and had it done. And even then, like the big fat biker guy that did the tattoo, they were trying to like convince me to not get the tattoo on my arm because this was the 1990s, like
Yeah, it was a different
early
era.
1990s. And you know, he was like, "Oh well, people think things about girls that have tattoos on their arms."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Now everybody has them.
now everybody has them. So I
Yeah.
just think that's really fun.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
I thought it was funny that he said that at the time
Yeah.
because he was like a
They're
lot
like
older.
popular with like girls and gay guys and everything have them, man. You know.
That's what I would say. I
They'll
don't.
have like super effeminate transsexuals, and they got fucking whole sleeves. Back in our days, you just didn't see shit like that. If you had a whole sleeve, you were probably a junkie trying to hide fucking track marks.
It
and
was
stuff.
unusual to
Yeah.
see it
You
when we
just
were
like, what
growing
the-
up.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? Yeah.
I mean, I always thought they were cool, but
You just didn't see 'em.
You just didn't see, and you for sure didn't see like just regular looking people in a suit like walking down with like full sleeves and
bikers-
shit on their necks and stuff. You didn't see that back then.
Bikers, ex-service people, fucking military people, and ex-military guys. That's who had them. Gangsters and shit had them sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, you saw them in Daytona because it was like a biker
Yeah.
place, because you know, especially during like Biketoberfest
Yeah.
and shit. But yeah,
Now you got teeny boppers with that shit.
well now like
Yeah.
now I pretty much everybody we know has at least one,
Yeah,
and several people we know have multiple.
yeah.
They're like, you know, all over.
I never really saw them as a priority, though. You know, that's just never really.
That's the thing.
really
It
cared.
sucks. It's like I really like them and I want more.
Yeah.
But I just never have extra money. Like, and especially like this shit that I'm imagining.
The time too. You got to sit for a long time, and they don't want
Yeah.
to do it all at once. You know, and then
Well, yeah, that's why I told
you
him to just
itch.
go ahead. I said, I'm just going to sit here for 11 hours and do
Yeah.
this shit because I don't
it
want to like
itches
that.
fucking for several days.
It does,
and it's
yeah.
Just, you know,
But, you know, one of these days I'll
it doesn't
get
hurt
more
getting them
stuff.
done. I mean, some people can't take it, but I don't really think it hurts getting them
I
done.
didn't find it pretty
Not at least
painful.
not on.
I mean,
Lars.
I didn't. Yeah, like I said, I sat there for 11
Yeah.
hours and it's just like a mild sunburn.
Yeah, I just don't
That's
like all
what it
that
felt like.
itchy scabbing and weird.
Yeah, it's worse
slimy
afterward.
Feel, yeah.
When all the
Yeah, pieces of this one fell off.
Yeah, they
during
always
that,
do.
During that period. Just, you know.
Yeah, it's just like it's supposed to. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and you just have random guys with guns, or sometimes homemade tattoo guns.
Yeah.
Damn motor out of a damn Walkman.
Mm-hmm.
Attached to a fucking piece of plastic on the end of a needle going through a pin, and you could just put batteries on it, and you could tattoo with that.
Yeah.
And they were tattooed with that.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that's the story behind the tattoos for
Yeah.
the person on YouTube that asked. And everybody else is like, shut up and get to the topic. Also, I had a couple of shout outs. We have a new patron named James. So hey there, how are
Yeah.
you doing? Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, man. $25 part patron.
And also, our friend of the show, Melanie, has sent us another PayPal donation. She
Yeah,
sends
thanks,
us
Melanie.
PayPal donations
Yeah.
pretty much once a month, sometimes
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah.
So that's like super awesome.
Yeah, she's a big
And
spender.
yeah. So we really do appreciate that. You know, if you want to go check out our Patreon.
JD's new book's gonna be ready soon.
Yeah, I'm working on the index.
Yeah.
I still have a couple of chapters to record, but not that many. I think it's only like 5 chapters left to record and edit. But the writing of it is done. The formatting is almost all done except for the index. Like I said, I'm working on the index. And I just have to do, like, I have to find a good image for the cover.
If you liked part one and part two, you'll love this too. This is every bit as good, if not better, huh?
I feel like they're getting better as
Getting
I
better.
go. I hope they are.
Well,
I don't
there's
know.
more to the cases because it's more in modern times too, so you got more to talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Although it's weird because I feel like the second one was probably the longest.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, 60s and 70s, that was your big serial killer era. And there were like a lot of them running around. Now that you get into like the 80s and 90s, there's still a really lot. There's some serial killers. There's a lot of weird murders and stuff. But I feel like probably most of them have been solved. Like
Yeah.
more of them have been solved. So there aren't as many that are unsolved.
Can't get away with it like you used to be able to get away with it.
Rats. Yeah, I know.
Can't get away with it.
Although a lot like unidentified. There's
Right.
I put like a lot of unidentified, but I couldn't. There was like a million more than that, but I couldn't put
Right.
them all in there. So all right. So speaking of murders,
Yeah.
let's
what's this
get
all
into
about?
talking about Bob Berdella. Like I said, also known as the Kansas City Butcher. or the collector for reasons which I will explain later.
Okay. Now take it he's from Kansas City.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay.
Although he wasn't born there, though. He
Yeah,
was actually born in Ohio, someplace, like Cuyahoga Falls or somewhere. Yeah, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. So he was actually born there, but he moved to Kansas City later on.
Okay, so how you going to do this?
So I'm just going to wing it
All right.
like I always do.
All right.
You know, this is not a professional show. That's
Yes,
just
it is highly professional. Highly professional, polished show.
highly professional. With
Well
bunny rabbit
researched.
ears. Yeah, well, you know, adequately researched.
Adequately
Let's put it that way.
In the amount of time that you have.
In the amount of time that I have. All right. So Bob Berdella is thought to have kidnapped, tortured, raped, and murdered at least 6 men between 1984 and 1987. They think maybe more, although he said that that's all there was. And boy, did he give a really graphic description of all the shit that he did to them.
Damn.
Later on, like after they caught him. So, special.
Jeez.
And some of them he kept in captivity for more than a month.
Damn.
So, yeah, doing all kind of horrible things to them.
Okay.
All right. So let's start at the beginning.
This the guy, well, hold on.
What?
Is this the guy with the dishwashing fluid?
Dishwashing fluid.
Put it in people's eyes? It's not
Yes.
That, is it that guy?
Not dishwashing fluid. It was like other shit. It was like alcohol and
Okay.
like drain cleaner and shit like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, this guy's bad.
Yeah, that guy.
It just kind of came to me once you said that he kept some of them for a month. I was going, yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Kept him tied up to a bed. Electrocuted him and shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's him.
Yep. I know this guy.
Ah.
Yeah, he's playing. He was this guy here was taking advantage of junkies.
Yeah, or like homeless
Yeah, homeless
youths.
male prostitute type guys.
Yeah, and male prostitutes, you know,
Yeah.
people who like street kids,
he
people who
was-
have problems and stuff.
Sadistic homosexual predator. Dude,
Yeah.
Dude was fucking bad. You
Yeah.
didn't want to fall into this guy's clutches. He took pictures of it while he was doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, but if you go on Murderpedia, which is a really good website, it doesn't just have serial killers, it just has anybody that ever murdered anybody.
Yeah.
And this had a photo gallery, and I was looking for it for photos for the show, and it has photos of some of the photos that he took.
Yeah.
I don't know if the people in it are dead or not.
Some of them are and some of them aren't.
Some of them are and some of them
Yeah.
aren't. So if you want to go look at those, you may. I'm not going to put them in the show. The only one I'm putting in the show is the one of the kid that survived.
Yeah.
Because at least I know that he's still alive.
I think if I remember one of the photographs I saw, he had actually put needles in a dude's eyes and took pictures of
That
it.
sounds like something.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, he just like took. He had like
Yeah.
over 300 like Polaroids of
Yeah.
like the shit. So yeah, so let's go back to the origin story of this fucking sadistic motherfucker.
Yeah.
As I said, he was born in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Now, his dad, who had the same name as him, he was the senior. His dad was, he worked for the Ford Motor Company. He was a dye sitter, back when that was like a thing that you could do.
Yeah.
His mom was a housewife, as many moms were back then. They were actually raised Catholic. It was an Italian Catholic family. Very religious household, apparently, very strict. So there's one of your problems right there.
Yeah, that might contribute to some pent-up energies.
Yeah.
But,
And
you know, we don't know the details, though, you know.
Yeah. He also had a younger brother. So when he was a kid, Bob Berdella, he seemed very, very smart from the outset. But wasn't real social. He always, like, kind of kept to himself. He did, like, you know, very solitary kind of hobbies. He didn't like to play outside. He wasn't very athletic. He had some health problems. He had like really high blood pressure, like so high that they had to put him on medication. This was like from when he was a little kid. He was real nearsighted. So he had like this big ass like Coke bottle glasses. You know, so obviously that meant that he got bullied by a bunch of other kids. So since he didn't really like go out and he wasn't real sporty or anything, his dad thought that he was like a failure because, you know, Robert's younger brother was like super into sports and was like really athletic and stuff. And the dad thought that that was what a boy should be. So he would always like kind of shit on, Robert's like, why aren't you more like your younger brother? Like he's way more awesome than you and all this other kind of stuff. So there's your second problem right there. Also, the dad was supposedly emotionally and physically abusive. I mean, the thing is, they say things like, oh, he beat the kids with a leather strap and stuff like that. Nowadays, that would be abusive. Back then
that was normal.
Not so much. Like, I feel like most people kind of got that.
Corporal punishment.
Yeah, during that time period.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of
and that didn't create serial killers.
No, because, a lot of kids that grew up in that era
yeah.
had that happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That they would, at least get spanked or hit with a brush or something like that.
Yeah.
So, Bob goes to school, and, as I said, he does, actually really, really well, but, he gets picked on a lot by other kids, and he was kind of, aloof, just very, very distant. But his teachers, liked him and thought he was, a good student. Now, right about the time he's, a tween or something like that, he realizes that he is gay. Now, because of his family upbringing and stuff like that, he thought he'd, and plus it's, the 1950s.
You're going to keep that under wraps.
Yeah, you got to keep that shit to yourself. So he didn't really tell anyone until later, I believe until the late 60s, early 70s. He supposedly had, a girlfriend or two, in that time period. Not a lot known about that. Now, when he's about 15, 16 years old, he supposedly comes into this kind of, really getting into, self-confident type of thing, but in a way that made him come across as, an arrogant, condescending douche. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He seemed like one of those guys that was he was super smart, according to all his teachers and stuff like that. They thought he was really intelligent and a really good student. But he was one of those guys that thought that he was better than everybody else and smarter than everyone else. And so he was just had this sort of attitude.
Sound like a little bit like Asperger's.
It might be.
Yeah.
He
professor.
Yeah, he definitely had something like that. He was especially condescending toward women, they said, but pretty much everybody, a lot of people couldn't really stand to be around him just because he was just one of those kind of know-it-all, well, actually type of dudes. You know what I mean?
We know.
You know what?
we know him.
Oh, yeah. I've known many people like that throughout my life.
Yeah.
Now, right around this time, too, he also started getting interested in cooking. He actually got really good at that. He was self-taught. He got interested in art. And he started doing, he painted, he was a fairly good artist. He started corresponding with pen pals, mostly in, parts of Asia, Burma, Vietnam, stuff like that. And he collected stamps and coins, and so he would, trade, stamps, they would send him stamps and, pictures of stuff. And so he kind of got really interested in, all this kind of, quote-unquote primitive art and artifacts and all that other kind of shit. So he started collecting that kind of stuff too. So then, when he's still in his teenage years, this was Christmas of 1965, his family goes to visit, relatives or something for Christmas or whatever, and his dad drops dead of a heart attack at 39 years old. Now, I guess that Robert had kind of a complicated relationship with his dad, because it seems I don't know. It seemed like he didn't like him and everything, but this seemed to be kind of a formative thing that happened to him when he was a kid, because it happened right around the time that he was a teenager, right around the time that he was starting to develop this new douchey self-confidence thing that he was doing. He tried to get back into Catholicism, after his dad died, I guess to make himself feel better, but found that it didn't really do the trick. So then he started reading about other religions, and then later kind of went on to, kind of become not disinterested in religion, but rejecting them. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't work.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
So it seems like there was a lot of things happening in this guy's teenage years that sort of were maybe not good, happening all together. Another thing that happened to him right around the same time in 1965 was he saw this movie called The Collector. And as I said, this is one of the reasons why they called him this later on. Now, this was based on a novel by John Fowles. And it's actually about... I've seen parts of the movie, actually. It's very good. The movie was directed by William Wyler. And it's about a man who stalks and kidnaps a woman that he thinks is pretty. And he takes her down in his stone basement that doesn't have any windows, and he just tries to keep her captive. Like, he's not trying to kill her. He's trying to keep her alive, like, as a slave. You know what I mean? It's like, he's collecting her.
That's the same book that Leonard Blake was into, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, thanks a lot, John Fowles. You've inspired at least 2 serial killers.
He was probably one of them.
I can't say anything because it's like I write horror shit all the time, and if some serial killer like took something I wrote, I'd be really upset about it.
Blaming you, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be blaming me. It's like it's just a story. I just made it up. But yeah, so apparently, like in the book, like the woman, he's trying to keep this woman alive because he just wants to keep he wants to keep her like a butterfly in a jar or something like that.
Yeah.
But she ends up getting a disease and she dies. And so, spoiler alert. And but so Robert Berdella said that this book and this movie had like a huge effect on him. I need to read this book because apparently it's so good that it like turns people into serial killers.
You keep a pretty woman captive down in the basement, she's not gonna be pretty for long.
Well, no,
I don't know
obviously.
what the fuck this guy's thinking. Yeah.
They're not thinking.
They're not thinking. Yeah.
They're not thinking. They're it's all like just this weird
Yeah.
fantasy that they have in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
That has no basis in reality whatsoever. Yeah, it's like,
It's not about the woman, it's about them.
Of course it is.
It's all about them.
Of course it is. They don't see that as a person. They just see that as like, it's like the doll, It's like a toy.
Yeah.
And shit, even Robert Berdella even called his victims that, play toys,
Damn.
later on. So that's how they see them. They just see them as objects.
Yeah.
So, okay. So after Berdella's dad died, his mom remarried. As they usually did quickly back then, because, a lot of women didn't work, and they're like, well, I don't want to starve to death, and I have 2 kids, so, got to marry the first dude that comes along. Now, I don't know if
That's kind of a...
I don't know if that is, I'm just making a joke.
Well, no, you know what I'm saying? There's this stereotype that women didn't work. It's actually bullshit.
I know they
women
did.
worked.
Yeah, my
They always
did.
worked.
My mom always did, too.
It was just after World War II they were encouraging women not to work, to be
well,
mothers.
I feel like a lot of people
everybody was coming
had
back from a war. They were all coming back from a war, so they just wanted to be housewives.
I mean, maybe upper middle class women didn't have to work, but
it didn't work out that way.
But most people in my economic status would have had to, because you wouldn't have been able to get by, especially if you had kids.
It was back in the 1800s when they mostly didn't work.
Yeah.
But I think by the time the 20s rolled around, they were working, most of them.
I would imagine.
I think so. I'd have to go back through my Rolodex of historical knowledge in my head. I think by the time, if I remember correctly, around the 20s, around that time, most women were working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be surprising if they didn't,
Right.
like I said.
It was like part-time stuff, but they were working, most of them.
Yeah. So she remarries, and Berdella, this pisses him off very much. He does not like his stepfather. He resents his mother for replacing his father. That whole thing. So he just kind of like withdraws back into himself, and all into his collections and his antiques and everything like that. Now, starting from about 1965, he started to, and I'm not really sure where he was getting the money from, but he starts like collecting, like I said, stamps, coins, like all kind of art, just various little artifacts from like all around the world and stuff. And he had actually built up such a big collection that, 15, 20 years later, he was actually able to open a fairly successful shop with all the stuff that he had. So he graduates from high school in 1967. And he had gotten really good grades. Like, even his teachers had, encouraged him to go into like independent study and all this other kind of stuff. So he was supposedly some big genius. Then he moved to Kansas City because, like I said, he'd been in Ohio before. And he actually wanted to go to college. He enrolled at the Kansas City Art Institute. He wanted to be a professor, like I guess an art teacher or some kind of anthropology type of thing that he wanted to do. And the first year he was there, he seemed to do really well. Like, all his professors thought he was, really smart and he was really going places. But then it seemed like the second year he kind of said, fuck it. He started drinking a great deal. He started taking a lot of drugs. He started dealing drugs. Like, he kind of fell in with all the cats. So he became kind of a minor drug dealer. he started getting to the point where he's just like, fuck all y'all, you can't tell me what to do, you don't owe me, blah, blah, blah. So he eventually ended up dropping out. Now, one of the reasons that he dropped out was because one of his quote-unquote art projects was he took a duck and a chicken, like alive, and he tortured them and killed them and cooked them, and that was like a quote-unquote art project. And his teachers were like, no. So he was going to get in trouble for that. So
He tortured them where?
I'm not really sure how he tortured them.
Okay. At home or at school in front of everybody?
In front of everybody.
Oh, okay. And they stopped him from
And
doing
they stopped him from doing it. And they were just like, I don't know if they kicked him out, but he, left at some point. Now, when he was, he also took a dog and gave it like tranquilizers and stuff like that, like as an experiment.
Right.
Type of shit.
Try to knock the dog out.
Yeah, he's doing this kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So when he's 19 years old, he gets arrested for trying to sell meth to an undercover cop. He posts the $3,000 bond, which is more than 20 grand in like today money. So I guess he had some money. And he pled guilty, got a 5-year suspended sentence. Now, a month later, him and a couple of other friends of his get arrested again for possession of LSD and marijuana. This time, he didn't have the money to bond out, so he actually spent 5 days in jail, but then, they didn't have enough evidence to hold him or whatever, so they ended up just letting him go. Now, it should be noted, though, that a lot of this money has been, like, for these drug arrests and stuff, that's going to, like, accrue, and, it was one of the things later on that why he started taking in boarders at his house and stuff like that. So, so he quit school, and then he moves to this house, the famous address in Kansas City, where all of his horrible things would happen, 4315 Charlotte Street. It's kind of this it looks like a 3-story house. It's gone now. The guy that bought it after this jackhole died tore it down and sold the land. But but there's pictures of it. But this is where he was doing all his crap. So he had Berdella had kind of come out at this point, since he was in art school and everything, and he starts hanging out with, I guess what they would call in the UK your rough trade. Male prostitutes, runaways, drug addicts, street kids, stuff like that. He seemed to have a few friends his own age, but because he was a little bit older by this point, but as the years went on, like all of his, peers, like all the people the same age as him kind of were like, they thought he was a little weird or anything. Yeah. So, so he ends up just hanging out with these kids pretty much. I mean, like teenagers and like early 20s. Now, it's weird, too, because all during the 70s and 80s, Berdella was like, his neighbors, like, they thought he was a little weird, and they thought he was a little, quote-unquote flamboyant. But nobody ever thought that he was up to anything, like, nefarious, because he was like the chairman of, like, their fucking neighborhood watch shit. And, like, he did all this, like, civic-minded kind of stuff. And so everybody thought that he was, like, an okay guy.
Yeah, like Raider.
Yeah, it was kind of that kind of situation. Yeah. In fact, the two have a lot in common.
Right.
Because Raider was kind of like that, too, with his kind of, like, superior attitude.
Don't for 1 second say that I have everything in common with this guy.
Why not? Am I hurting your feelings?
Well, he's gay.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to women as God intended,
Okay.
Yeah. It's fucking Dennis, man.
It is Dennis.
Yeah.
That was another YouTube comment that somebody made. They said they were watching the trial, the BTK trial and everything, and they're like, oh my God, Tom sounds just like him. I'm like, I know, that's what he sounds like. That's what he fucking sounds like.
I didn't set about to, like, talk like him, or learn like talk. I just remembered him.
Yeah.
And I pictured him in my head, and that voice came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I channeled it.
That's what I mean, and that is what he sounds like.
Yeah, I was just,
Sexual problem.
Sexual problem. Some men have sexual problems. And they have to find ways to alleviate the pressure. Might have to tie somebody up, you know.
And they might get upset.
Yeah. They get upset. And I told her, I was going to have to kill her. And she got a little upset, of course, but...
Every time, I swear to God, like, when we were doing the show about that douche, and, like, I was watching, like, the fucking shit of him saying all that stuff, every time he said that the victim got upset, I was like, oh my God, if I could reach through the fucking... If I had a time machine and I could go back and just punch you right in the fucking taint every time you said that, I would. God damn it.
Yeah, they get upset.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Imagine that, yeah.
Those bitches.
It's understandable, but poor them. It's okay. Still gotta do it. Yeah. Still gotta do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? But yeah, so this asshole, his whole thing, and I don't buy this for a second, but his whole thing was like, oh, all during the 70s, his boy, oh, well, I wasn't having sex with them then. He's like, what I was trying to do was I was trying to help them because a lot of them were drug addicts or street kids or prostitutes or so I was trying to, like, get them out of it. So...
He's just trying to help them.
Yeah, and
Trying.
I don't believe that. But it's weird because, like, I feel like his whole thing, too, and this is another thing that fucking BTK did as well. His whole thing is just, like, pushing responsibility off onto someone else.
Yeah.
So I think that his whole thing about, like, why I started killing these victims is because they didn't appreciate what I was doing, or they didn't recognize what I was doing for them, so it's their fault.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm
trying to help him, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he had some of that kind of shit going on. And he said something kind of like that, like during all his confessions and stuff, that they didn't appreciate, like, what he was doing, or they didn't, like, know.
Well, probably what was really going on is that it was a bunch of pretty much streetwise, grisly little junkie kids, They know that they have this perv skeeving out on them. Yeah. And trying to give him gifts to try to,
Yeah, you would let him, like, live in his house rent-free and, like, give him money and stuff.
They knew he was trying to get up in that booty.
Yeah.
So, they didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
it's their fault. So I had to kill him because they weren't...
They didn't appreciate me trying to get up...
ingrates, goddammit.
Yeah, they didn't appreciate me trying to get up in his booty.
I guess.
That was the thinking.
Have you seen this motherfucker, though? It's like, I don't want him anywhere. I don't care if I'm a girl or a guy. I don't want him, like, within fucking 5,000 miles of my booty.
I've seen him, but I forgot what he looked like.
He wasn't bad looking when he was real young.
Yeah.
But when he got busted, he wasn't looking too good. I'm just saying. Yeah, so...
Well, he's helping them with ulterior motives, of course, and they know that. And
these weren't like dumb kids.
Dummies,
they were like, they'd lived on the street and shit like that.
It wasn't true love.
They knew the score.
It wasn't true love, so I had to kill him.
I guess.
That's his thinking.
Jesus Christ. But yeah.
Shame on them. I'm gonna punish them.
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of that. It's like, what the fuck is the matter with these dudes, man? I don't know. But yeah, so while he's at this place, as I said, he still had all this debt accrued from, like, all these arrests and stuff that he still had to pay. So he started working as a short order cook in, like, a bunch of different restaurants. And he was actually really good at it. Like, he actually worked his way up through the ranks. It's like... he even got to, like, head chef at a couple of restaurants. And he even, like, at one place, he even started, like, a training program for, like, the younger chefs. So, like I said, he's doing, like, all this civic-minded kind of stuff. So everyone thought he was, like, a super cool guy and all helpful and everything. And then...
Yeah, it's just a way of fucking getting your hands around somebody else.
Yeah.
And to get notoriety and appreciation, they always want, like, positive reinforcement.
Accolades.
Yeah, positive. They want their greatness to be recognized.
And I feel like another thing that this dude had too, which was another thing, and I didn't even realize until we started talking about BTK, how similar these two guys are, is that this guy, I mean, he's from fucking Ohio, right? No slag against Ohio, but it's Ohio, And then he moves to Kansas City, Missouri. And he's, like, super into, like, he styles himself as this really intelligent, worldly type of person. It's like, oh, he's into all this art, like exotic artifacts and everything like that. But he never went anywhere. Like, he never traveled. He never did anything like that. And I feel like that maybe came across as, like, he felt like he was a failure. or he was like a fake. You know what I mean?
You
Because
know
it's
what I mean?
like he's just like this small town schlub
Right.
that has these aspirations
Right.
of being like this, you know, worldly kind of suave,
Yeah.
world traveling like art collector type of
Yeah.
dude. And he like never, like I said, he was just like he worked
A
in
local.
he worked
He's
in
a local.
restaurants in Kansas
Yeah.
City, and it's like that's all he did. You
Right.
know what I mean? He never went anyplace.
Yeah, you got to go to Europe and shit. Fucking go look at the art galleries.
Yeah, I feel like he thought that was what he deserved, or he thought that was what, like, that's just the impression.
Just the
that I
image
got.
you want. That's probably just the image
Yeah.
you wanted to portray.
Yeah. So, as I said, so he's, like, working as a cook and stuff, and he's actually, like, you know, making okay money doing that. He also started a side business, like, selling a lot of these, like, antiques and artifacts and stuff that he had collected over the years, and it actually ended up being, like, fairly successful. He just kind of operated it out of his house at first, and then he was, like, working as a cook also. And he would also... You know, because the house was not a huge house that he had, but it was like 3 stories and it had some extra rooms. So sometimes he would rent rooms out. Like, yeah, you know, yeah, he would let these kids stay there sometimes rent free, but some of the people that lived there, like, actually did pay rent and stuff too. So he made extra money that way also. Now, eventually, this side business with the artifact selling and antiques and everything got so successful that he was able to quit working as a chef and just do that full time. Now, later, he opened up his own store. Now, store is a little bit of a misnomer. It wasn't a store like a whole storefront. It was actually like a booth at the Westport Flea Market, which I think is still there as far as I know. But it was like a permanent. I guess it looked like a permanent like a shop, like just at this flea market, because like it had like a little neon sign and all this other kind of shit.
Okay.
So yeah.
More like a shop at a flea market then.
Yeah, like a shop at a flea market. But it's like, I don't think it was like super huge or anything like that. Now, the name of the store was famously Bob's Bazaar, 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 Bizarre.
Okay.
Because how funny is that?
So it's bizarre?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of his thing, is that, and I have like a picture of the business card that he had too. But he was like really into, I think the business card even says like anthropological or something like, or exotological. I don't remember what the fucking word he was that he used. But he would sell, you know, like trinkets that they didn't really sell a lot of back then, I guess. But just like he had like all these like antiques. He had like shrunken heads, like human skulls, that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like dead bird skeleton shit.
So he's trying to sell curios.
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So even though like the shop did okay, he still wasn't making like quite enough to live on again, so that was why he kept getting like all these lodgers and stuff like that. So seems like he was trying to, you know, just barely getting by with that. But he wasn't working as a cook anymore. Now, while he was working at this store, he makes friends with this other guy who has a booth at the market, whose name is Paul Howell. Now, so that guy's booth was like next to his. Now, Paul Howell had a son named Jerry. Now, at first, Jerry and his buddies used to always make fun of Bob Berdella, like making fun of how gay he was, I guess, and like picking on him and stuff. But according to Bob Berdella, Jerry would do that, like, hey, fag, and all this other kind of shit. But then he admitted it's like, oh, yeah, me and my friends, like, we make drug money by being male prostitutes. So, you know, it's... I don't know if that's true, but that sounds about right.
That sounds right?
No, I'm saying that's what, like, all these dudes that are kind of just like, oh, you're so gay,
Yeah.
and then it's like, turns out they're fucking doing the same kind of shit. Because it's a self-loathing thing.
Either that or he made that up.
Yeah, it could go either way. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if that was true. So he's like, you know, friends with this Jerry Howell kid. Now, Paul Howell, who was the kid's dad, he later moved his business out of the flea market, and then he went to this other store later on. Now, apparently there's like a year or two in there where Bob Berdella and Jerry kind of lost contact, but then they kind of like befriended each other once again. And Berdella, like, supposedly, like, gave him legal advice and shit like that. Because I guess Jerry Howell was, like, you know, getting into trouble, like you did when you're a teenage boy.
Yeah.
So in 1984, Jerry was 19 years old and would become Bob Berdella's first victim. Where are we on time? We're at 44 minutes. Do you want to take a break? Or are you?
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Bob Berdella's murders, since I just thought that was a good place to stop, because we just started.
Now we're starting to get into.
Because now we're starting to get into like all the horrible murder shit. So okay, we're gonna take a break. We will be back in just a few minutes.
What have you got to say, baby cookie? Nothing? Okay. That's about right. That's your little spot, isn't it? When Mommy and Daddy do the show. That's your little spot. Just right behind Mama's laptop. And then there's the camera. And she's right there. She's not pushing it at the moment. Oh my goodness. This is a new mint cat toy that I got for them. They're really into it. Isn't that right, Beijing? It's super minty and fun. Yeah, I know. She's like, why are you filming me? Stop filming me.
Alright, we're back. Now, before the break, we were getting right into the part where Robert Berdella started killing people.
Yeah, we're getting to the good part.
At least as far as they know.
Yeah.
So, as I said, as far as they know, his first victim was 19-year-old Jerry Howell, who was the son of the guy that had owned the booth next to him at the flea market.
Yeah.
So apparently what he did to this poor kid, he said that he was going to take him to the city of Merriam for a dance contest, and instead he kidnapped him, gave him a bunch of alcohol, Valium, and some other drugs until he was unconscious, then injected him with tranquilizer. When he was completely out, he tied him to the bed in his house, where he was held captive for 28 hours, repeatedly drugged, tortured, and raped, with also foreign objects inserted into orifices you don't necessarily want foreign objects inserted into, unless you're into that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, all of this shit's going on. Apparently, according to Berdella in his later statement, he was saying, obviously, Jerry was, begging for him and asking him why he was doing this, because he had known him for quite a long time, and he thought they were friends. So he didn't really understand why this was happening. And then Berdella said, well, then I figured he was probably going to die from having the gag on and all the drugs and everything. And after he died, or he went unconscious, went into a coma or whatever, he tried to do CPR on him, or so he said, but it didn't work. And he ended up dying anyway, as I said, after 28 hours. So I guess after he can revive him...
What was the actual cause of death? Did he say?
I'm actually not really sure. It could have been any number of things.
Yeah. Did they ever recover the body or anything?
Most of the bodies were not found.
Okay.
And I do not think that his was...
So really, it's all on his story.
Well, they did find a skull and a severed head on his property.
Of that kid?
Not of this kid.
Okay.
But of 2 other victims.
What I'm saying is that there's no remains behind. So we really won't know how the kid died or what happened.
Yeah, it's just kind of like...
It's just what he said.
That's what he says.
Okay.
So he says that after Jerry Howell died...
Because it may have been a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
Probably was.
Yeah, I mean, this was his first one. And they do get a lot worse later on, so maybe he was still trying shit out. I know it's like a horrible thing to say. So he apparently takes the kid's body, drags it down to the basement. He hangs the body up from the ceiling over a big pot. And then he made like a whole bunch of cuts, like to his jugular vein, his like inner, like the inside of his arm, like right here and stuff, and drained all the blood out. Then he took a chainsaw and a boning knife and cut the body up into pieces, put those pieces in a garbage bag, put that garbage bag in another garbage bag, and left it out on the curb for the garbage man. So the reason they think that they didn't find most of the bodies was that they were in the landfill.
Right.
Because he said that that's how he got rid of most of the bodies,
So
was he
funny.
just put them out for a garbage collection.
So funny when these city boys decide to dismember a body using a damn chainsaw.
Seems very messy.
Yeah, anybody who's ever dressed a deer or done anything, just a very sharp 3-inch pocket knife will just reduce a human size animal down to just nice packaged little pieces of meat and whatever, and there's no blood. Very rarely.
Yeah.
You know?
Well.
They just, it doesn't even get anywhere.
I guess this guy didn't
They
know
just
that.
don't know what they're doing, you know? I mean, damn.
I mean,
no field skills.
He did clean the shit up later on, but it's
Yeah.
like when the cops came in later and like did the luminol all around there, they said there's blood all over the place.
As long as you field dress and get those internal organs out of there and into a bag, that's with deer.
Pro tip for any serial killers
just get
out
the
there.
internal organs out. It comes right out. You know, you can just look up all kinds of video tutorials on how to field dress a deer. A human is exactly that same way. It's the same layout. You know, all animals are. You know, they're pretty
Well,
much
since we're all like
we're all
related.
that same. Yeah. So it's all just like that. As soon as those internal organs are out, it's not a messy process at
Yeah.
all. Chainsaw would just splatter that shit around everywhere. I don't know why you would do it.
Maybe he was just into the chainsaw.
He just didn't know.
Or
any
that's
better.
what he had
He
around.
didn't know any better. You can have a little 3-inch pocket knife and remove a human leg right at the joint off just cleanly, and not spill any blood. You know, you're just dumb.
Well,
and he's a cook.
He's a serial killer.
But he's a cook.
yeah.
He's supposed to have knife experiences and dealing with meat and stuff. It's the same thing. Just maybe some kind of fetish. Had to be.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, because you'd think he would know better, especially when he's doing this shit in his house.
Yeah.
And like I said, a chainsaw just seems very messy. It seems like maybe he just, I don't know, maybe he just liked chainsaws. It was like a thing that he had.
I mean, you know, anytime you're dealing with meats or fish or anything, you know, in the kitchen, you get a whole fish and you can gut it and fillet it down to nothing. You know, it's not really a big difference. If you have the skills to do that, you can do that to a human cadaver.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any different than a deer. The shape's going to be different. That's about it.
We're going to be on so many lists.
And really, a deer is the same thing that you would do to a rabbit. It's a lot smaller, and that's basically the same thing as a chicken.
Or a pig.
Pig's just a bigger version of a chicken and a rabbit.
Yeah.
You know, just...
But yeah,
It's that same
I don't
layout.
know why. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have the same layout.
It's all that same layout there.
So, as it turned out, because Bob Berdella was known to be acquainted with Jerry Howell and they were known to be friends, he actually was questioned in Jerry Howell's disappearance. But he said, oh, well, I drove him to that dance contest over in Merriam, and it's like, that's the last time I saw him. Can't help you there, officer.
Yeah.
And they bought it. So, you know. Now, something else that Bob Berdella did, and I guess he started doing this with his very first murder, was he kept very, very detailed journals about what he did to all of his victims. He seemed very, like I said, it seemed like experiments.
Yeah.
Like he was like super into like trying things out, and he had like all these little codes and stuff that he would write in there, like all the stuff that he did on them, and like what they did and how they reacted. And it's all just like, I've read like little pieces of it, and it's like, it's super, super creepy because he's just like so detached. It's
What kind
like
of stuff's he saying?
it's just like talking about a bug.
Yeah.
He just says stuff like, you know, like when he was, like if he was restraining somebody, he'd put like, restrained, no struggle. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah,
he
yeah.
would put things like that.
Right.
And then he had like I said, he had all this, I'll get into it a little bit later, but like all these little codes he had about all these little things that he did like to the bodies or to the victims. And it's just like, it's just like horrifying. So, when they caught him later, he said, I thought this was like a weird thing for him to say, but he said, oh, well, I wasn't doing it for enjoyment.
Okay. Right.
I was doing it for quote unquote physical and mental satisfaction.
That's the same thing.
Which I was I was like, how is that different?
Yeah.
I mean,
He's just trying to analyze it like a writer. Well, of course, you know.
that's what I mean.
Yeah. I have sexual problems.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It sounds just like that. It's just like that. Like he sees himself as better, and he sees himself as like, I'm going to experiment on this person, and oh, this is this interesting thing that I'm doing, and it's like, I wonder what would happen if I did this, and I wonder what would happen. But he doesn't see them as a person.
Yeah.
He just like sees them as a thing. Like I said, it's almost like
And
it's
they
like somebody pulling wings off flies.
Yeah, and then they do all this weird shit, and they don't really want to talk about it or rationalize it. Like, Rader never really did, as far as I know. I don't think he really made any comments on why he was dressing up in women's clothing and getting down into graves.
Yeah, was that something he was just like...
bondage and taking pictures of, you know?
Yeah, because he did do that.
You know,
yeah, did he ever say why he did that?
I didn't hear any explanation. Maybe he did, but I don't know it.
Because that almost seems like something that he would have been embarrassed
He'd probably
about.
say something along the lines of, well, you know, sometimes when a man has sexual problems, he's trying to communicate certain things to law enforcement. You know, it's going to be like that, you know. He's going to make some
You're too good at this. It's kind of creeping me out.
He's not going to say, you know, well, you know, I have this desire to dress up like women. You know, he's not going to say that.
Yeah, he doesn't say, oh,
No.
it gives me a boner. He doesn't say that.
Yeah, he's not going to say that.
Even though that's true.
He's going to say something like, it was art, performance art. I was trying to
put myself into the place of the victim.
Yeah.
I was trying to put
I
myself
was
into their mind.
trying to show the investigators how I saw, you know, the victims. You know,
That's probably exactly...
Yeah.
I
wanted them to see what I saw. You know,
Yeah.
It's going to be something like that.
Like,
But that's not what the deal was.
Well, no.
The deal is that he liked to dress up in women's clothes and put a damn mask on his face. A girl mask.
And it's like, why? Just admit it.
He wanted to be a woman.
Just admit it.
What it is he wanted to be
They can admit it. That's why they have problems.
He wanted to be the perpetrator and the victim at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Deep.
He wanted to be both.
Yeah.
He wanted the whole experience. I've heard
Like I
some of them
said,
say
you're
that.
too good at this.
I heard some of them say that when they were killing the victim, they also kind of wanted to experience what the victim was that they wanted to be the victim too at the same time, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah. I guess I can...
Because it's not just sadism and it's not masochism, it's sadomasochism. They want both ends.
Yeah.
But you know...
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they want both aspects of it.
Like I said, I don't...
Yeah.
You know...
That's what I think Rader was doing.
I think you probably got it there.
It was sadomasochism. He wanted to be the killer and the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, okay. So his next known victim, this happened in April of 1985. Now, this guy who was 23 years old, his name was Robert Sheldon. Now, he had apparently been a tenant in the house before, a long time ago, and, like, he paid rent and everything like that, but then he had moved away. But then later he came back, like in April of 85, and he said, you know, can I just stay in your house again for a little while? So, according to Berdella, he said, well, you know, even though this guy had been a good tenant, like he always paid his rent on time and everything like that, he saw him as quote-unquote an inconvenience, so he decided that he was going to collect him. Mm. Or, you know, take him prisoner. So on April 12th, he comes home from work, and Robert Sheldon is apparently in the house, and he's kind of a little drunk. So Robert is like, okay, well, I'm going to take care of this now. He later told the police, he said, I was not sexually attracted to Robert Sheldon. I just thought he was essentially a pain in my ass, and so I just thought that I was going to, you know,
get rid of his
enslave him, I guess. Because, like I said, he didn't kill people outright. He kept them for a long time.
Yeah.
And
I think he's bullshit. Man.
I think he is, too.
He's bullshit.
I think he is, too.
Yeah.
So
it's got to be some kind of powerful force driving him to do this.
Yeah.
To me, it's going to be, I'm thinking, lust.
Yeah. Lust. Well, it does seem like that.
Lust and homosexual desire.
It does seem like that.
He's like...
Fleece. And a power trip. It's a power trip also.
Yeah, he's basically Fleece Johnson, booty warrior. Go up on YouTube.
Not at work.
Go up on YouTube and go search for Fleece Johnson, booty warrior, and let him tell you. Okay.
Now I'm gonna have to go look that up.
Booty warrior. Yeah. Someone have to give up a booty.
I'm gonna have to make. You know what? I'm gonna make a booty warrior shirt, and I'm gonna make you wear it.
Got all these men locked up, and somebody gonna have to give up that booty. You know, that's what he said.
Yeah.
You know, but he knows what he is. He's a warrior. Just you know, he's gonna take it. He's gonna take your booty. That's what's going on.
Yeah,
I hate, you know,
but in a horrible.
Yeah, I hate to, you know, shatter people's images of themselves. And he's trying to say, well, you know, I'm gay, but I wasn't attracted to these men. Well,
some of them he said he was, but this one he said he wasn't.
He's bullshitting.
I know, I think he is.
He's bullshitting. He's just what it is maybe that guy wasn't attractive enough. Normally, he'd be attracted to him, so he didn't want to admit it.
Yeah,
that he was kind of lowering himself. Maybe he thought the guy was a skank or something. Because I didn't really like that one. But yeah, how much I bet he had sex with that dude.
Oh yeah, I think he did.
So there you go.
I think he had sex with all of them, or he raped all of them. Yeah. I don't want to say he had sex with them because it wasn't.
So there you
consensual.
go. I mean, that's the motive.
Yeah, I'm just saying that later he said that it's like, I just thought this guy was a pain in the ass, like staying in the house. And it's like, I just had a lot of anger and frustration built up and I wanted to take it out on someone and he happened to be there. So I figured
prison
that
him
that's
in the
what
house
I was
isn't going to get him out of the house.
Well, no, I know.
So
it seems
all,
like you're really shooting yourself in the foot.
This is all a story he's telling to the authorities.
They really do have like a little imaginative, like fantasy life.
Yeah. He's blaming the victims, and then
clearly
he's saying he's blaming the victims, and then he tells this story. This is how he's easing himself into this role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the eyes of the police. Oh, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because I'd been, you know, fantasizing about it for years, and then finally took the plunge. No, they did this to me.
Yeah.
All right. It happened slowly, and then one thing, you know, it could happen to anybody. That's the story he's trying to tell, if you ask me.
Maybe that makes them feel better.
Makes them feel better about it.
That they think anyone would do the same thing in the same situation.
It was
even
incremental.
Though nobody would.
He's trying to talk the cops into believing that this is how it happened.
Even though everybody can see
can't
what
you
they're
understand?
doing.
You know, hey, don't you guys feel the same way now that I put it to you like that? You're like, no. But that's what he's trying to do.
Sorry, can't help you there.
He's trying to rationalize it to the cops.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so he takes Robert Sheldon, takes a bunch of sedatives again, and like drugs him, ties him to the bed, holds him captive for 3 days.
Yeah.
He was one of the, I think, as far as I know, he was the first one that he started doing, like, the really horrible, like, you know, not that the other one wasn't horrible, but, like, the more famous, like, tortures on.
Yeah.
Like, he would take, like, drain cleaner and he would, like, swab it on his eyeballs.
Yeah.
He took his wrists and, like, bound them with piano wire because he wanted to see if it would, like, cause permanent nerve damage, like, to his hands, like, he wouldn't be able to use them. He took, like, a caulking gun and, like, filled his ears up with caulk.
Yeah.
Like, to see if he could cause permanent hearing loss. Like, shit like that. It's like, how the fuck do you even think of that kind of crap? Like, fucking shit, dude.
Experimentations.
That's what I mean. So why does this stuff even occur?
No,
I'm a horror writer and this stuff does not occur.
I thought he injected the drain cleaner into the guy's eye.
Sometimes he
with
did.
With a needle. Yeah.
Sometimes he did.
And
I think on
that
this...
will blind you, I mean.
Well,
None of these dudes lived, though, so...
Yeah, except the last guy, he got away.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and he'd also, like, stick needles into their fingernails and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, apparently, Robert Sheldon had been held captive for 3 days. And then, on April 15th, like, this workman shows up because he's gonna do some work on the roof of Berdella's house. So, Robert Berdella's like, oh, well, workman's gonna be here, guess I better kill this guy.
Yeah.
So he just put a bag over his head and suffocated him.
Yeah.
Then he took him up to the 3rd floor bathroom of the house and cut him up.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, put most of his body out with the garbage, but he did keep his head because this guy's skull was one of the heads that was found later on.
Now, was he conscious when he killed him, or is he unconscious?
I'm not really sure. Because he kept them drugged a lot. Yeah. And he kept a very detailed log of that as well.
Yeah.
Like all of the drugs that he injected. Like I injected 30 cc's of whatever this was, like at this time, and then this happened.
Yeah, from what I remember, most of them were pretty incapacitated most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, maybe that's like some small mercy, I guess. Maybe they didn't know what was happening to them most of the time. It's like, it's fucking horrible. So, okay. So the next one, this happened in June. Now, this guy was named Mark Wallace. Now, he kind of knew him a little bit, but he came across him, and this is like so random, but apparently Mark Wallace, I guess he was like partially homeless. Like a lot of the time he just stayed in hotels or slept in his car or whatever. And I guess it was a really bad thunderstorm one night. And Mark Wallace kind of knew Bob Berdella, like he was kind of known around the neighborhood. So he went and like hid out in his tool shed, like in his yard, like to get out of the rain. And Berdella found him in there and was like, hey, why don't you come inside the house? It's nice and warm in there. And, you know, I'll give you food and all this other kind of shit. So he also said that he would give him some chlorpromazine. It's like, oh, that'll, you know, chill you out and everything. Yeah. And Mark's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So he gives him it, and of course, it, like, renders him unconscious. So, again, he takes his drugged victim up and restrains them to the bed. I think he was in captivity for about a day. He had stuff like, he would take, like, those alligator clip things and, like, clamp them on his nipples and shock him. That kind of stuff. He took hypodermic needles and put them into the muscles on his back, like, to see what would happen. And Mark Wallace, he didn't last much more than a day. Like, he died from the drugs. Like, the gag was, like, cutting off his breathing. Like, he had lack of oxygen and stuff. They said that he noted this victim's time of death as 7 p.m. on June 23rd. So he wrote that down in his book, time of death, just like he is a fucking doctor or something. It's fucking crazy.
He's a shitbird.
Yeah, he's dead now at least.
Yeah.
So the next incident occurred on September 26th, 1985, which also happened to be my 13th birthday. So Bob Berdella gets a phone call from someone he knew named James Ferris. And James Ferris, again, like, you know, they'd known each other, like, around the scene or whatever. And he's like, you know, I need somewhere to stay for a couple of days. So Berdella said, fine. Now, he specifically, as soon as he got that phone call, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to kidnap this one. Because apparently some people stayed at the house and didn't he just picked particular ones. Because a lot of people were stayed in and out of his house, like, during this time period. And not all of them ended up getting killed. But this guy definitely did. Now, according to Berdella, James Ferris was the first, and I don't know how he justifies this, but he says, this was the first victim that I just intentionally wanted to inflict all this torture upon.
The other ones was
I was like,
accidental.
what was that other shit you were doing? I was just like, I just fell on him and electrocuted his nipples with alligator claws. What the fuck? It's like, what are you talking about?
I didn't intend to torture this guy. It just slowly happened. But this one I intended.
Oopsie.
Yeah. That's some weird shit.
Yeah, I just accidentally,
He's
fucking
lying.
poured caulk in his ear.
He's lying to the cops.
Yeah, no shit. That's this stupid fucking...
Yeah.
God damn it. So... it's like I find this stuff fascinating, but it also makes me really angry. So he meets James Ferris at a bar, and then he brings him back to the house, and then he smushes up a bunch of tranquilizers and puts them in his food, and then he ties him to the bed. Now, this guy lived about 27 hours. There was also electrical shocks. He shocked him on the shoulder, shocked him on the testicles.
Damn.
He would do 5 minutes at a time. It was shocking for 5 minutes.
Just let the electricity go through there, huh?
Which...
Yeah.
What would that do to your testicles? Wouldn't they explode or...
No.
Fuck, man.
Probably just fucking lots of pain.
I mean, 5 minutes doesn't sound like a long time unless you're being electrocuted.
Yeah.
That's a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, again, he did the whole needle thing, sticking them in the guy's neck, back, and his genitals.
Yeah.
So, apparently, understandably, the victim is kind of getting, delirious and out of it. And Berdella is, keeping up the torture. He's also raping the guy, which he did to the other ones as well. I thought that went without saying. Until he writes in his little book that Ferris is unable to sit up more than 10 to 15 seconds, which, duh.
Yeah, right.
And then his next entry says, very delayed breathing.
Right.
And then they said, this is a little upsetting, but he said the next thing that he said was, I guess the guy died because he said he was 86th.
Okay.
That was what he said for,
Yeah.
Which that's kind of a chef term, but I think that's kind of gone out into the wider, I know what it meant, even though I never worked in a kitchen. So yeah, so that was his code for stopping the project.
Yeah.
Because that's what he called them, a project. That's nice.
Yeah, so did Raider.
Yeah.
It's a project,
Well, that's what I mean. It's it's a dehumanizing... Yeah, it's like an object. That's all they are, is an object. And that's how they see it. And I just... That, blows my fucking mind that somebody can see another person like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Intellectually, I get it, but I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't understand doing it. I can't understand doing that to basically an innocent person.
That's what I mean. It's it's another thing. If you caught if you caught Bob Berdella, it's I could do it to that guy.
Yeah.
I would still think he was a person.
There has to be a reason. Yeah.
But
this guy's
like I said,
a fucking monster, and then
you've done this kind of shit. You've kind of renounced your personhood.
Yeah.
I think at that point, once you've gone past that limitation.
Yeah. These kind of dudes, when you talk about them, you say, well, I don't know how somebody can do that to another person. I'm like, oh, I can, because I do that to that dude. Yeah. If I got a hold of that dude, I'd fuck him up.
But you wouldn't do it to an innocent person.
I can't understand
Obviously.
it. I can't understand it. They're into that kind of false power trip.
Yeah. And talking about a person like they're not a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
that's not power.
Well, obviously.
No. Even a weakling can do that to another person if you get an advantage over them.
And most of them are.
Yeah, so it's not power.
Yeah. Well, they don't really seem to understand that,
power.
do
they? Yeah.
They don't seem to understand that. So the next victim was a guy named Todd Stoops. Now, he was married. He actually had a wife, but he was a drug addict and also worked as a prostitute sometimes to, get money for his drug habit. He had actually lived in Berdella's house before, like I said, because he'd had lodgers off and on. And Todd had lived there a couple of times and then had moved out. I think his wife lived there too for a little while, the second time. But they had moved out sometime before. But then they ran into each other again in June of 1986. Now, Todd at that time needed some money for drugs. He needed specifically $13, which was today's about $30 in today's money. So I don't know what kind of drugs he was getting. But so he needed some drug money. So Bob, helpful old Bob, was like, hey, come back to my house. I'll give you some lunch. We can have sex. I'll give you money for drugs. So Todd says, okay. Now, in this case, Berdella did say that he had always been really attracted to this particular guy. So he apparently was super happy to get his hands on him, I guess, because it's like this was a guy that he always thought was hot, which that's fucked up. But yeah. Now, Todd Stoops was actually in captivity for 2 weeks.
Damn.
And the torture just got like worse and worse and worse, like the whole time. And keep in mind too that not only is
he's doing this to do that he knows and that he liked.
He knew
that's
all of them.
Yeah, that's fucking weird shit.
Or they were at least acquaintances.
Yeah, but he liked this one. That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it was almost like this is almost kind of like the where it goes back to where he was reading that book, The Collector. It's like he didn't care if he liked it. He just wanted to possess it. He wanted to have it. Like I said, like a doll or...
Yeah.
It was like a Dahmer thing.
So what did you do to him?
Yeah, so he said, I'm going to turn this one into a sex slave. That's like incapacitated and I can do whatever I want to them, whatever I want. So he wanted to keep him alive for a long time. So another thing he would do is like he would have... Like the guy's eyes would be closed and he would take like a spatula and then like... put the spatula on there and like electrify the fucking spatula and like he was trying to like blind him. And then he would take the drain cleaner and he injected it into his larynx.
Try to keep him from talking.
To try to keep him from talking or screaming.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Did it work?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But
Probably
yeah.
just burn your throat up real bad.
I would imagine, yeah. So, yeah, so this poor guy, and it's like, he's denying him food, he's raping him all this time. Now, on June 27th, this is real special, and just this is a little rough, so, So, he apparently took his fist, and he was fisting the guy so stridently, I guess is the word, that he ruptured the guy's anal wall. So, there's just... blood, it's just everywhere. That didn't kill the guy immediately, but it contributed to his death later on. So he said, like, the guy's health obviously started to deteriorate after that. He tried to give the guy food. It's like he just kept throwing everything up. He couldn't sit up anymore, like, or breathe. And he actually ended up dying on July 1st, 1986. And the guy that did the autopsy, so I guess they actually did find this guy's body, but that he had died from the, he had got like septic shock from the puncturing of the anal wall by this dude's fucking fist, man. He stuck his fist up his ass, and was like, ugh, this is horrifying. All right.
So what was this guy's reaction to killing that guy? Just didn't care. Kept on going.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just... He, like I said, he saw people like bugs, I guess. It's like, this one's particularly pretty. I'll see how long I can keep this one alive, like, while I'm pulling its legs off and stuff. It seemed like that kind of thing.
I would fuck that dude up.
Ugh. Luckily, he's already... Like I said, he died actually pretty young, which, So the next one happened in spring of 1987. And this was another acquaintance of his. It was a 20-year-old guy. His name was Larry Pearson. And he met the guy when Larry came into his shop and was like, oh, I really like all your stuff. And I was like, really into like wizard type of stuff when I was a kid. And all your shit's really cool and everything like that. So Larry then ends up going and staying at Berdella's house, like as a lodger for a little while. And he couldn't really pay rent, but he started doing like chores and shit around this, like washing the dishes and shit like that, like around the house.
Is this a gay guy or a straight guy?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess probably. A lot of them were hustlers.
Right.
Some of them like had straight relationships, but would hustle on the side.
Okay, I gotcha.
So, it's kind of hard to say. But so this guy, now, according to Berdella, he said that he actually wasn't planning on making a captive out of this guy. But then the guy said something or made a joke about hustling gay guys and stealing all their money. Like he used to do it when he was younger, like back in Wichita or whatever.
Right.
And apparently that made Berdella mad.
Oh, really? He could kill gay guys, but it's okay the other guy.
Yeah, or something. Or something like that. I don't know if
Yeah.
it made him mad, but it's just like he's like, oh, well, I think I'm going to take captive this guy too. So that night, like the same night that he said that, He injected him with some kind of drug and then put him down in the basement, and he tied his hands over his head, and then had it wrapped around this brick column thing that he had down in his basement. Then he did the thing with the injecting drain cleaner into the larynx again. Then he brings down the transformer and starts electrocuting him. Now, Robert Berdella said that Larry Pearson was actually the most cooperative of his victims, because something that Bob Berdella would do, especially because, like I said, he kept a lot of them in captivity for quite a while. He would say, I won't torture you as badly. If you let me do this, then I won't do this worse thing and all this other kind of shit. So apparently Larry was would let him do some stuff just to keep, because he was afraid that he would do worse shit later on. So, as I said, he had he had done all these electrical shocks. He had broken a bunch of bones in his hand with an iron rod. He did that. But, because he was cooperative, they said, okay, well, he's like, all right, well, I'll move you from the basement. I'll move you up to the second floor. And then if you continue to be good, I won't do it as bad. You know what I mean? He'd still do shit to him, but it just wouldn't be as bad as before. And apparently, I guess what ended up happening was that Larry he got to be so afraid of him that, at least according to Berdella, that he learned to sleep without moving because he didn't want to move or snore or do anything that would make the guy mad.
Right.
So he was just which is horrible. And Berdella would say, oh, I'll move you back down to the basement or whatever. So now Larry Pearson was in captivity for 6 weeks.
Damn.
And then after that time period, he just lost it. And he was giving Bob Berdella head and bit really hard into his dick.
Yeah.
Which I was like, good for him. He
off.
tried to bite it off.
Yeah.
And apparently it was bad. He ended up having to go to the hospital for it.
Damn.
So yeah, he just lost it, and he just tried to bite his dick off. He probably tried to bite his dick off. Unfortunately, he was restrained at the time, so there wasn't a lot more he could do. Bob Berdella actually just bludgeoned him with a tree limb, which I don't know why he had a tree limb around, but whatever. So yeah, he bludgeoned him unconscious, and then took a bag and put it over his head and tied it and suffocated him to death. And then he drove himself to the hospital for the dick wound, because I guess it needed stitches and shit, because it was apparently really bad. And he just told them, that it was consensual, but it's he bit me accidentally or something like that. So then after he gets treated for the dick wound, then he goes back to the house, cuts up the kid's body, puts his head in a plastic bag in his freezer, and then later buried it out in the backyard. Now the other guys, Robert Sheldon, I think, was the other guy. Now that guy's head, he kept that in the yard for a while until it skeletonized, and then he took the skull and put it in his bedroom closet, because I guess he thought it was cool or something.
Damn.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy was all cut up. Like I said, I think the most of the body parts ended up in landfills because he would put them out for the garbage collection. But but this guy's head he kept, and it was in the yard, and it was actually found later on. Now here's where his whole serial killing career starts to unravel, because his last victim, who actually got away, was named Christopher Bryson. Now, he kidnapped Christopher Bryson in March of 1988. It was a 22-year-old prostitute. So he lures him to the house. He says, hey, as a client or whatever. So Chris Bryson goes to the house. They had met at a Greyhound bus station or something like that. So they hang out at the house, and they're hanging out in the living room or whatever. And he says, oh, we should go up to the second floor. There's all the dogs are down here, and upstairs there's a couch and there's a TV, and it's all comfy, and let's go up there. So he's like, all right, fair enough. So Chris is walking up the stairs, and while he's walking up the stairs, Bob Berdella whacks him on the back of the head and knocks him out. So then he has him like tied up to the bed, and this is one of the pictures that I have, and he starts like taking all these pictures of him, like Polaroids and stuff, when he's all like tied up and unconscious and shit.
That's the ones I saw, I think.
Yeah, there's ones of the other victims too, like on Murderpedia, but I didn't really want to put them in the show because those guys died. This guy lived. So yeah. He starts taking all his pictures. Now, Chris was in there. He's in there for 4 days. He gets beaten with an iron club. Berdella injects him with various animal tranquilizers, shit like that, like in various parts of his body. Puts alligator clips on his testicles, nipples, whatever, shocks him, rapes him several times a day. Keeps him tied up, just keeps giving him different drugs, shit like that. So he said, after he escaped, he said that he would show me pictures of the other guys that he had done this to, and some of them were dead.
Yeah. And
he said, this is what's going to happen to you, like, if you don't cooperate. So he's like, so I saw a bunch of pictures of, like, different people, and he would, like, threaten me with it. So he also got Drano injected into his throat and swabbed his eyes with alcohol and all this other kind of shit. Now, because I guess Christopher Bryson had kind of gone along with him for a little while because he had gotten a couple of privileges. So even though he was like, tied to the bed with several ropes, Berdella would let him watch TV during the day, and he would let him keep the remote control for the TV like in between his knees so he could like kind of get to it. Like his hands were tied up and stuff, but he could like get to it with his knees. So on this one particular day, he figures out, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to escape. But he didn't know if Berdella was in the house or not. So he had to like lay there, and he's like trying to turn the TV down and it's like see if he can hear him and shit like that. And he's like, okay, well, even if he is here, I'm going to try and get the fuck out of here. Turned out he wasn't there. Lucky for him.
All right.
So what he did was he actually, I guess his hands were tied up different than they normally were. So he got one of his hands out. Now, another privilege that Berdella had given him was he had given him a cigarette, and before he left to run errands, he like threw some matches at him, right? So Chris gets one of his hands free, he gets the matches and lights it and burns off the other rope. And then he gets the fuck out. He jumps out a fucking second floor window.
Yeah.
Naked. All he had on was like a dog collar with like a rope on it. And he broke his ankle jumping out of the window. And then he runs to the fucking neighbor's house. Now the neighbor obviously doesn't let him. There's a naked man on his porch like freaking out.
They called the cops though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did call the cops because he was like, I'm not letting you in. You just stand right there and be naked. But I'm going to call the cops and everything will be fine. So this guy escaped. And if you see, there's like there's a documentary that's going around. I think it's on YouTube. I watched it a while back. It's got James Ellroy, the crime writer. He's kind of presenting it, so there's a bunch of shit about him on there. But it's got like a reenactment of this, and it's actually got interviews with like the real guy as well. So so this guy escaped, and he basically he was like all fucked up. It's like he had all wounds everywhere. His eyes were all fucked up. His throat was all fucked up.
I've seen interviews with him.
Yeah.
He said the guy would sit there and shock him and just watch him.
Yeah.
He said he was a sick bastard. Sit there and watch him
watch clearly.
Him fucking like go through the electrocution process.
It's like fucking, what the hell, man? I don't get it. It's like some fucking Nazi doctor experimental shit.
He had some fucking sexual problems.
Yeah, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris is telling the police all of this stuff. So the cops are like, okay, well, they decide to put Berdella's house under surveillance for a little while and see if they can, meanwhile they take the guy to the hospital, thankfully, and he gets treated. Now, at first, the cops go to Berdella's property and he won't let them in, so they have to go back and get like a search warrant to do the property and everything, and they use that guy's testimony like to get the search warrant. So then finally they go back with the search warrant and start looking around. So then while they are looking around the house, unfortunately, they didn't find a lot of bodies at first. And they said the house was like, I guess he was kind of like, they didn't really say he was a hoarder, but they said it was like super cluttered, and they said it was like dog shit everywhere. So kind of like a hoarder.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did find like a lot of the photographs, but photograph doesn't necessarily prove anything because like you can't prove that the people are dead. You can't prove that, maybe it's an art photograph. Who knows? So there was a lot of kind of problems in that area, and they really had to like kind of search around. But while they're searching the house, they do find some stuff that corroborates Christopher Bryson's story. They found like some burnt rope ends like tied to the bed upstairs. They find like the transformer with like the alligator clips tied to it. They find like the pipe and everything. So this kind of goes along with what he told them happened to him over the previous 4 days. They also noted that the the posts on the bed, they're like, it looked like there were ropes around it now from where he had been tied there, but he's like, the way it was worn looked like there had been a lot of people tied to it that had been like struggling to get free because it was like really, really worn.
Now this bed, was that his bed or was it an extra bed?
You know what? I don't know. Okay. He had, so like I said, this was a 3-story house, so I don't know if he had like I know this is terrible, but I don't know if he had like a special like room.
Yeah, because he must have had a bunch of beds.
The torture room.
Right, yeah.
Well, like I said, he had a bunch of extra rooms because he always had like tenants, like he had lodgers, like that he let stay there. You know what I mean? So he must have had a lot of extra bedrooms. Like I said, I've seen a picture of the house, like an old picture. It's not a giant house, but it's like, it's kind of one of those old-fashioned Midwestern looking houses that looks like it has like an attic, like an upper third floor and stuff. So the cops start searching more stringently through the house, and they find a human skull in a second floor closet, which I guess was Berdella's bedroom. So this was one of the victims. Now, it's not, if you find a human skull in the house, it could just be...
Could be medical.
Or, you just bought it from a curio shop or something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm just saying, in this case, obviously, it does.
Buying a skull from a curio shop, where'd they get it?
That's what I mean. It's like, whose head is this?
All right.
But yeah. However, when they searched the yard, they found a partially decomposed head. That's a little harder to explain away.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway right there.
Dead giveaway.
Dead giveaway.
Ooh, that's a blast from the past.
Blast from the past, yeah.
I haven't thought about that. We still haven't got around to doing that Ariel Castro case. I had it on my list, but I just
We ate ribs with this dude, and I didn't have a clue that girl was in that house.
That's why I'm still get stuck in my head sometimes. Whoever did that was like fucking brilliant. Yeah, so they find a partially decomposed head, as I said, it's still like hair and stuff on it, like buried in the backyard. They also found a bunch of human vertebrae that had knife and hacksaw marks on them. Also, another dead giveaway. Found a bunch of human teeth in 2 different envelopes. So who's keeping that shit too? It's like, that's why I said, that's why they call them the collector. They also found, when they searched the basement, they found like a bunch of saws and stuff. When they luminoled the place, they found just blood everywhere, even though he had wiped it up. Obviously the luminol showed it. The chainsaw that they found down there, when they tested that, they found little gobbets of flesh and pubic hair and blood and shit like that on it. So, obviously not real stringent about cleaning up after himself.
I remember when this shit went down, man. This is all over Geraldo and everything.
This sounds like something Geraldo.
Yeah, Geraldo and all.
We're going in Bob Berdella's house.
Yeah, no. You remember he had that talk show?
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Geraldo.
I'm making fun of his Al Capone's ball.
Who else was? What else was on there? Fucking Sally Jesse Raphael. Maury Povich. Boy, those were the days, huh?
Ricky Lake. Although she didn't usually do like a lot of hard-hitting true crime stuff. That
Ricky Lake was just
like
about
paternity.
Who was the daddy.
I'm in love with the dude that wears diapers.
Yeah, and my daughter's now a stripper. That kind of shit.
Jerry Springer.
Yeah. I ran into Springer.
I remember. Have you told that story of the show before? I remember I remember you telling me that though.
Yeah, we used to have this goth club that was kind of an underground goth club. It was a dude's house, but it had
it wasn't a club.
It had a club, it had a bar, it had everything in there. You know what I mean? But it wasn't really open to the public per se. It was, you had to be invited in, and it was called the Convent, ran by a dude named Pierre, and you never knew who was going to go, who would be in there. It was a fucking really cool little fucking private club, you know. All the off-duty goth strippers were there, and there was, you never really could tell. You know, there was nudity and sometimes sex, you know, was going on. But there was never really a crowd any bigger than about 30 people in there. Most of them knew each other. One time I was in there, man, turned around, fucking, it was Jerry Springer in there. Jerry Springer was sitting down watching like a couple they were doing just like light bondage.
BDSM.
You know, it was just very light, you know what I mean? Like, it's just more bullshit. And he's
like
sitting
just
there.
whacking their butt with his
And he's
tails.
sitting there in a big old wicker back chair and shit, you know, a big old fucking grin on his face and just Jerry fucking Springer, you know what I mean?
Who the fuck invites Jerry Springer to a goth
Jerry Springer was in the French Quarter all the time. It was the French Quarter in New Orleans. In those days, he was there all the time. And I said, "Fuck, Jerry Springer, man, how you doing?" And, you know, and I was fucking decked out, you know, and I was with my first wife, you know, and he's like, and he's like, "How you doing, man?" Oh, he goes, "Oh," and he's saying hi, and I says, "You enjoying the show?" He goes, "Oh man, this place is great." And he's talking. I says, "I like the show, man, it's real fun," you know. And Gary Oldman was in there too one time.
Well, see, I'd be a lot more excited about that because I love Gary Oldman.
Trent Reznor.
Didn't you say
Marilyn Manson didn't get in? They wouldn't let him in. He was fucking pissed.
That's very funny
he was
to me.
Fucking pissed.
Didn't you say that one time Trent Reznor drove off in his car?
Yeah, and Head Like a Hole came on. As soon as he was in a Ferrari.
That's also
He was in a
very
used
funny.
Ferrari. It was
and
cool,
he turns out, it's like, "This is my
Head
band."
Like a Hole, and we were up on the, and nobody liked him. Nobody liked him. He had the image of kind of like a goth industrial guy, but when he was hanging out in the club, he was just wearing Bermuda shorts and a baseball cap and like a fucking t-shirt.
Was he one of those guys?
One of those
like
kind
a
of guys.
goth on the inside.
Yeah. No, actually, what it was is he was one of those guys where, oh, goth's fucking stupid. I'm just making money off it. It was really kind of. It seemed like he was like that.
A little bit,
But
of the Andrew Eldritch.
Yeah, like an Andrew.
Although I feel like Andrew
Might have
Eldritch
been
kind of
really
grew
cool.
out of that when
But
he was 50 or so.
He let him and Marilyn Manson lived in town. They had just moved there.
Yeah, I remember them having like living
And
there.
bad place, man. Fucking the French Quarter was fun, but boy, and Marilyn Manson tell you in his book that if you're gonna go to the French Quarter and hang out in New Orleans, you're gonna end up in one of three places: a bar, a cemetery, or prison. And that is absolutely true. Okay. It was,
Read Poppy Z. Bright if you don't believe us.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a certain allure to it, but it was like a black hole. Once you went in, you could kind of get stuck. You could get trapped there.
Yeah.
Lots of crime, lots of bad shit going on, and not a good scene. But it was funny, you know. I told about convergence that was happening.
Yeah.
And that was a time where those goth kids killed that family that was around that same convergence. Remember we did the show about that?
No, we're gonna do a show.
Oh, we haven't
done one yet.
We were talking about it then.
Because I have it written on the list. We just haven't got around to it yet.
Yeah, I was.
Because you knew that kid's lawyer.
Yeah. Well, no, that was Rob Farrell.
Oh, that's right.
It was Rob Farrell. Knew that.
Okay.
Knew that kid. I worked for that kid's lawyer. I was talking about the ones that killed the Christian family and stole their car.
Oh, right.
I thought we did do a show on that.
No, we didn't. I don't think
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
Unless no, maybe we talked about it on Unsolved Mystery. No, I don't.
They were
remember.
heading to New Orleans because
That's right.
It was convergence.
We must have talked about that as
convergence.
before. I don't think we did a whole show about it.
And I was there, and all the people that I knew from Boston up in the Man Ray, from the club Man Ray, and that old scene, like Hex, Club Hex, they showed up in New Orleans, and I hadn't seen them in a few years, and it was a cool time, but it was not sustainable, and evidently it's not as cool as it used to be.
Nothing is.
It was only like that for a while, and Katrina hit and destroyed all that.
Yeah. And in some ways, I feel like some of the shit was cool because a lot of people talk about how cool New York City was before it got gentrified and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's
it was like that.
I'm sure it was cool to a point, but it's also
It wasn't that
really
cool.
dangerous.
Yeah,
It's also really dangerous.
Exactly.
You get shot and drive by it and shit like that.
When I was living in Detroit back in the fucking Cure days before I
Yeah.
joined the army in the late 80s. Sophie, she came to visit me. She's been going to City Club and all the old clubs that I used to go to. She says they're still going pretty good, but there was something about the late 80s and the goth scene in that area at that time. It was all kind of like it was the right time to be there, Which I happened to be in the right time to be in all those places and a lot. I missed California and New York. I wasn't there for that, but like the vault and the bat cave and all
Yeah.
that, you know. But you know, I'm from California, but I moved away. I didn't want to live there anymore, you know. But I got to see all the other cool shit. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And now that we're here, Orlando's now fucking kind of blowing up. So
Yeah, you wouldn't think it because I think a lot of people think Florida. It's like, but there's actually a really big.
Yeah.
I mean, the Orlando Tampa, because you know we're not that
Tampa.
far apart. Orlando Tampa is like a huge goth industrial.
in the '90s, Tampa was one of the biggest. The Castle was one of the biggest goth clubs.
if not
It
the
still
biggest.
probably is. And you can go back to like Saturday Night Live in the '90s when, you know, what was her name, the girl who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yeah.
doing goth talk. She was always talking about how more goth Tampa was versus Orlando, and we know exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about
that is true.
they're talking about fucking the Castle, or Ibar.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about.
And actually, I mean, the Castle is still like the dominant force. That's been there
Yeah.
for like, I don't even remember how long.
It's
Because
a good
I
club.
lived over there a while.
A lot of
like,
our
in the
friends are
early
there.
2000s.
She does a lot of flyers for that place.
But they've opened up a bunch of new places now, like a lot of new venues. They have like all kind of shows. They have Crowbar, the Orpheum, Hooch and Hive. They have all that stuff. So, but you know, Orlando's opened a bunch of shit too. So
Yeah.
we're doing okay over here. We even get like sometimes when we do our Memento Mori, like on Monday nights, third Mondays in the month, we get people coming from over from Tampa.
There used to be shit going on in Savannah even back in the 90s.
Yeah, Savannah actually used to be all right also.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still, you know, if there's.
I haven't
anything
heard
else
much
to-
about it lately.
Right.
You know, I feel like
Savannah's a beautiful city.
it really is. Yeah, I've only
Very
been there
gothic.
once, but yeah.
Very gothic fucking cemeteries and underground fucking.
Maybe we should go.
railways.
That's not that far. It's
Yeah.
only about what, like a 6-7 hour drive from here.
That's
Not
still
even.
pretty far.
I don't even think it's that far.
If you go there, we should just fly.
True.
Okay.
My sister lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll ask her how long it takes. I've driven to Atlanta from Daytona and it took 6 hours. But so I don't know.
Gotta do a show from there. There's some abandoned subway systems in Atlanta, or in Savannah.
Yeah.
There's a whole abandoned underground. I think they can tour it in certain places.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like I said, that might be a good place to go for vacation.
Train
It's
stations.
not that far away, and it's like
Train stations from the 1800s and stuff,
Yeah.
underneath the ground, subway stations.
that'd be kind of rad.
Yeah.
All right, so okay,
Yeah, what's happening with this?
what's happening with this? Okay, so as I said, they found all the blood, they found the head, they found all this other stuff in his house. They also found over 300 Polaroid pictures and about 30 different snapshot photos of various males. In some of them appeared alive, some of them appeared dead. Some of them have never been identified. So some of them might still be alive. They were trying to like identify all of them and like match them with missing people. They also found like a whole bunch of, you know, porn, needles, all kind of crap like that. He had a book about drugs, like how to administer them and how much you needed and blah, blah, blah. They also found his fucking little torture notebook.
Yeah.
Now, they're trying to like decipher like all of his little like codes and shit in there. Now, he had stuff like, you know, if he put BF, that that's butt fuck.
Yeah.
Anal penetration, let's
Yes.
put it like to put it in a nice way.
Yeah, you're Fleece Johnsoning someone as a booty warrior.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
And then he would put like Fing F, like for sticking his finger up your ass.
Yeah.
He'd also put things like carrot F or cucumber F. Use
Damn,
your
you know what that's
imagination.
going on.
Yeah. He also put like, you know, how much, like I said, how much of a dosage of the medicine or whatever medicine it was, and how much he gave it to him, like how far apart it was. You know, so he would put DC, that usually meant drain cleaner, EK or EKG, that meant electrocution.
Right.
You know, so all that other kind of stuff. And as I was saying before, he would make little comments like, gag loose, no resist and retie. He would say things like that. Like, so he was like really meticulous.
Sounds like he's trying to make this shit official.
Yeah, that's
He's
exactly
trying to
what it
give
sounds like.
He's an air of a fucking scientific
exploration.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's trying to elevate himself.
Yeah.
I really, really do get that. Because like I said, he had this whole thing about, oh, I'm so smart and I collect all these antiques from all over the world and sell them to you and I'm like so much better than you are. So I feel like he was like putting on airs.
Yeah.
As he was trying to be like fucking Hannibal Lecter. Like before there was
Before
a
there
Hannibal
was a
Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, but
You know what I
trying
mean?
to make it seem like it was science.
Yeah, like that was how he was, and it was almost like his.
That he was under control.
Yeah,
He was
like
following a
it was
fucking
rational.
routine. Yeah.
Like it was, I think it was a way too of like putting himself at one remove from it also, because he was, like I said, it was like an experimental subject. It's just like a rat that I'm going to cut open.
Give himself an air of authority, like he was doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's just horrible. Okay, so anyway, so they ended up identifying like some of the missing men from the photos, because some of the dudes had been reported missing, obviously. Like I said, they only found a couple of the bodies, including the one head, and they found a skull. A lot of them have not been found. They think they were like in a landfill. They also found like a whole bunch of names in the book, and, you know, they assumed that probably he had killed those as well. Now, all they know is that probably they think he killed 6 men. Now, they're not, it's not without the bounds of possibility that he probably killed more than that, but those are the ones he admitted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just 6, and then the last guy was the 7th, but he escaped. Now, he ended up going to, they ended up, like, after they arrested him and shit, like, they ended up having to, like, take naked pictures of him, like, to, like, match up to, because a problem that they ran into with a lot of the photos of the victims that they found in his house was that his face was never in them. Like, there would be pictures of him, like, raping his victims and things like that, but obviously his face was never in them. So they had to take all these pictures of him naked from, like, every single angle so they could, like, match them up.
Yeah.
Like, here, the curve of your ass looks just like, it's like, oh, can you imagine, like...
That's not how they do it, though.
I know, but it's
they
like...
do it by moles.
Well, I know
and
that,
fucking
but it's
things.
like...
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, though.
It just seems
You know
like...
it, but they don't know it. They do it through, like, moles. They'll look at a photograph and they say, well, these 3 moles, the guy's elbow, and they look and go, yeah, there, he's got them. Little bitty identifiers.
It just kind of... It just seems like I would not want that job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Any piece of your body can be identified.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'd be super easy because I have like freckles all over.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff they can do.
And I have a witch's
They
teat.
got that shit
also.
down to a damn. They got that shit. You got a what?
A witch's teat.
What's that?
A mole.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of those like big like 3D moles.
Yeah, I guess so. That's not that big deal though.
No, but I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
if it was back in the old days, they would have said that's where the devil suckles.
Yeah.
I would have got burned at the stake.
Nah.
I probably would have anyway. So initially, because they couldn't find a lot of evidence and stuff, so at first, they only charged him with 1 murder, that of Larry Pearson, because that was the head that they found. So, they could establish that was who did that. So they're going to do him for that, and then they were actually going to give him, I think he ended up getting charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of second-degree murder, along with a bunch of other charges like forced sodomy, kidnapping, all that other kind of stuff. Now, they wanted to give him the death penalty, but they allowed him to plea out. They said, we will not we will not seek the death penalty if you will tell us everything that you did, to the victims and tell us where the bodies are and shit like that. Obviously, they couldn't find the bodies because most of them, he said that he sent them to the landfill because he put them out with the garbage, so they never did find most of them.
Boy, that fucking goes to show you that all these fucking really super special ways of getting rid of bodies that dudes have done, like fucking Dahmer, I'm gonna do them in acid and all that kind of, you can just throw them out. That's and get.
Well,
away
see,
with it.
that's what, like, you know what I mean? I'm not a serial killer, obviously, but it's like, since I write about a lot of this
Keep that
kind of
shit
stuff,
simple.
it does seem like the simplest ways are sometimes the best. It's like sometimes either put the shit out with the garbage, or as long as no one sees you, obviously,
right.
or just dump it in the woods, like off a highway somewhere. It's like, even if somebody finds it, they're not going to tie it back to you. You know what I mean?
Don't teach anybody some shit. We're just saying.
I'm just saying.
We're just saying.
But yeah, so it just goes to show. He put most of these bodies out with the garbage, and they never found them.
I mean, all you gotta do is just listen to this show, and talk about all the cases and everything that she's written about. The more extravagant a fucking case is, it seems like the more you're gonna get caught.
That's what I mean. The more complicated, the more moving parts you have to your plan, the more it's gonna blow up in your face.
The dumber it is, the fucking the better. The bigger the chances you're gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
You can't overthink it, evidently. It's weird, huh?
I feel like most of the cases that I read about, which are almost all unsolved cases, a lot of them are just somebody that's like, they just grab somebody off the side of the road, like a prostitute or just somebody walking home to the store or something like that, and just killed them and just dumped them off a fucking road somewhere. They just drove down the road and just dumped them out of the car, and they never found out who did it. Never.
Yeah, you never hear about it again.
Yeah, it's like, people found the body, but there was no way to like link it back to the person that did it.
If you make a big deal out of it and give the thing a fucking fantastic signature, it skyrockets to the top of the pile, and you're more likely to get caught. It's weird.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah,
because that crime is sticking out from the other ones.
Because depressingly, I mean, crime has gone down a lot, but since the 90s, but there's still a lot, and a lot of them are never solved because.
But that's amazing. You can just take a body and cut it up in pieces and throw it out in the garbage. But it makes sense because there's so many.
That always did kind of make sense to me. But no one's gonna look.
Yeah, they're not looking, and there's so many other pieces of meat in that garbage.
That's what I mean.
People's
it's like,
dinners and old leftovers and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised people don't do it more often.
Right. They might.
Maybe they do, and they're just not getting caught. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's all kind of people doing it.
Just like that jerk off that tried to grind bodies up and flush them down the toilet. He thought that he's being really slick there.
That was Nilsson, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then all it did is just clog up the damn pipe.
It just clogged up, and everybody's like, hey.
Where's that fucking smell coming from? Yeah.
Yeah,
Dumbass probably should have just thrown it out.
Yeah. Yeah, because you just try to flush it down the toilet. It's not gone. It's still like in the pipe. It goes somewhere, and it'll get backed up. Yeah. It'll either get backed up in your pipe or it'll get backed up in the sewer down the street.
It didn't even get out of the house. Remember, it was there.
No, it didn't. Because he was on the top floor.
Yeah, and the pipe that went down externally.
And it just got clogged and started stinking.
Yep.
So.
Dumbass.
Yeah, he was super stupid. Well, he was also keeping bodies wrapped in a blanket, in his fucking wardrobe, in his room.
He's a dumbass.
He had all those little fucking air fresheners sitting on it.
Air freshener was solid.
Those little old ones that you used to pull apart like that.
This asshole never smelled what a fucking decaying dog smell like. Man, growing up as a little kid, when I was a kid, you'd find dead dogs on the side of the garbage track, or on the sides of the railroad tracks. And you don't understand, you just can't comprehend how much just a small dog would fucking stink, and how far away you could smell that dog. And you're gonna put a person.
Yeah, a person who's closet, 3 times bigger.
Yeah, and let that rot in your house, and you think you're gonna fucking mask that odor with a few fucking air fresheners? You're fucking retarded. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're fucking stupid.
Well, that dude.
And he's scared to throw it away, but he's not afraid to let it fucking decompose in his closet.
I kind of feel like they're into it. They have to be into it. It's like Dahmer. It's like what you have to be into rotting, decaying stuff.
I don't
because
know.
How could you stand it otherwise?
I think it's fear.
I don't know. Shit, man. I'm just sometimes I'm doing my walk down the walking path, and if a little raccoon or a little possum or something got run over in the road, you can hear it, you can smell it 500, 600 yards away, and it's you have to hold your breath.
Yeah.
Just something that small. So you can imagine how much worse a fucking human body smells.
You want to puke.
Yeah, it's just a horrible gag-inducing.
Dahmer had a bunch of them up in his house.
That's what I mean. I can't imagine what that would have smelled like. How did you can't get used to that.
No.
Ugh. But yeah. So anyways, this guy, like I said, they allowed him to plead out. It's he still got multiple life sentences. But they said, okay, well, we won't give you the death penalty if you confessed everything that you did. So he did. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that I said about what he did to all the victims, that was his confession. He said that he did all that stuff. And as I said, he blamed the victims for being well, they didn't really appreciate I was trying to help them get out of prostitution or drug use or whatever the fuck he said he was trying to do. He also said that he was mad that people didn't understand that he was a sensitive citizen who made mistakes. Yeah, that's some mistake. I mean,
He was very sensitive.
We all make mistakes.
He made mistakes. I mean, that's some ridiculous shit.
He's mistakes.
He's raping and torturing dudes to death.
Yeah. Oops. My bad.
Fisting dudes to death. I'm very sensitive and I made some mistakes. I'm gonna put this motherfucker on. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna put him above Dahmer. Not Dahmer. Above
BTK.
BTK. Above Dennis Rader, because Dennis Rader said some fucking crazy shit too. But this is even crazier.
I mean, doing all that and then actually standing up in front of other people and just saying, you made mistakes.
I made mistakes, yes.
Did you?
Is
that what you call that?
I'm a sensitive person. I made mistakes. People will believe anything. And then you have motherfuckers like this.
Man.
Motherfuckers like this think that people would believe him.
It's like, man, I've got drunk and wrote the wrong amount, like, on the tab at the bar. That's a mistake. Kidnapping a guy, keeping him tied to a bed for 2 weeks, injecting Drano into his neck, and fisting him to death is not just a mistake.
Punch fucking the motherfucker in the ass.
That's
just
not
a mistake. Whoops! Just a mistake. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It won't happen again, except it will. Yeah, what the fuck? So, and also...
I'd have to set this motherfucker on fire if I saw him. I'd have to set him on fire.
At least he's already dead.
Yeah.
It'd
be out of that movie Summer. You know the movie Summer? You saw?
Midsummer?
Yeah, when they were all burning up. Yeah, it'd be like that.
Spoiler alert.
Okay.
We're going to sew him inside a bear suit.
I'd set that motherfucker on fire.
Yeah, we're going to sew him inside the bear skin and set him on fire.
I'm going to say, I'm making a mistake here. Yeah. I got the lighter.
Whoops.
I'm making a mistake
look what I'm doing. Oh, man.
I'm a very sensitive man, and I'm making
I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. That's fucking stupid.
I didn't mean to set him on fire. And he also, since he was blaming everyone but himself, he also blamed the cops for not catching him earlier. So,
he put it on them. Yeah, put it on law enforcement. Well, it's your fault. You should have caught me.
Yeah. Yeah, he genuinely seemed to believe that he was just like this upstanding citizen that just like, I messed up a couple things and now you all are being so mean to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just
you should have stopped me.
And that too. I'm just like, oh Jesus. Okay, I'm so glad this dude's
dead. It's
on
you guys. You guys didn't stop me in time.
Yeah, I'm so glad this dude's dead. Yeah. All right, so now prior to in the 1990s, the early 1990s, he had started writing letters to his minister, because I guess he was still kind of marginally a Catholic, and he was saying that the prison officials were not giving him his heart medication, because obviously he'd had high blood pressure throughout his entire life, and he needed medication, and he claimed that they were not giving it to him, and he was like complaining about it and saying he was going to sue and all this other kind of stuff. Well, actually, on October 8th, 1992, he died of a heart attack. He was 43 years old.
That young man. Well, they were trying to save money.
Well, his dad died of a heart attack when he was 39, so it might have run in the family.
Right.
Now, were the prison officials not giving him his heart medication? Can I care that much about it? Not really. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's true, though, because I feel like he's kind of a little bit of a fantasist.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like he had a little persecution complex, and he's like, they're not giving me my medication. But it could be.
Could be.
I mean, it could be that the people that live there were like, man, fuck that guy.
Fuck that dude, right.
Because it should be said...
He's got a life sentence, you know what I mean? And fuck that dude.
It should be said that after he died, the judge that presided over his trial, when they told him, hey, that guy died, the judge said, and I quote, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Which I was like, I kind of wanted to high five him for that. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I hear that shit makes me want to smack the dude that fucking tried. That tried. What's his name? Fucking. Remember?
Oh, Bundy.
Bundy. Yeah. He's like, I don't know where you went wrong, son. You'd have made a great lawyer. He was looking at that dude like he was fucking.
Yeah, like, oh, what a shame. He made a mistake.
Lawyer. He was kissing Bundy's ass.
He made a mistake.
He was kissing
Bundy's ass. He just killed like a whole bunch of women.
I don't know where you went wrong, but you would have made a great lawyer. You could have been up here with me.
Yeah, he like sounded like sympathetic.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like, oh man.
I'd have bitch slapped that fucking judge.
Right? What the fuck? I couldn't believe that. Like when we were watching the Bundy tapes on Netflix, I saw that, I was just like, oh my god. I was like, that's fucking unbelievable. I can't believe
Jenny and I know. We party with lawyers and stuff, and I've worked for fucking lawyers, defense lawyers, and a lot of times, prosecutors can become defense lawyers, and they did this and that, and elections happen, and these same motherfuckers can become judges. Man, there are a lot of... Lawyers are weird. I'm just going to say lawyers are weird. I don't understand why countries want to elect lawyers into power for... politicians. I don't believe lawyers should be politicians. Leaders should be politicians. You can get those from other professions. Then you can let lawyers manage what the leaders do.
Well, I mean, I think lawyers...
Don't give lawyers
It's a
authority.
necessary job
Yeah.
in our society, but
To be a good lawyer, you've got to be a sociopath.
well, you have to be a good bullshitter.
They lie, and they don't believe in truth.
Yeah, they just believe how they can spin things.
Everything
That's
is
their
spin.
job.
That's their spin.
I mean,
So
I'm not
just-
shitting on them. That's literally what their job is.
Lawyerism is a game.
Yeah.
And man, don't give those fuckers authority. Not outside a courtroom. Just in a courtroom. Just saying. If you fucking elect lawyers as leaders, you're going to fucking live in a world of fucking interpretation. Where you're living in a world of gray and one guy interprets it one way and the other guy's going to... There is no truth. Truth is just what we interpret. And those motherfuckers laugh when they send an innocent dude to fucking jail. I'm a great lawyer. I put an innocent guy in jail. I'm a great lawyer. I got a murderer off. That's fucking how they fucking think.
Yeah, like I said, that's what that's literally what their job is.
That's literally... I don't trust lawyers outside a courtroom.
I don't trust anyone for any
Yeah.
reason.
No.
Just,
No, you're much better electing some kind of a military leader, and you let the system keep him in check. At least he's going to tell you what he thinks. At least he's going to do what he thinks is right. A lawyer doesn't think anything's right. They just don't. They just think about what they can get away with and what they can convince other people. Now, I'm not insulting lawyers that are here. There are some good lawyers.
well, like I said, that's what
But
their job is.
I party with lawyers, and you lawyers that are listening to me know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's a fucking game. It's just the same thing as the priesthood, the old priesthood, really. They would interpret the word of God to be whatever they wanted it to be at the moment, really, and argue about it. It's the same fucking thing.
Whatever was going to give them the most
Yeah.
stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after this douchebag died, they auctioned off his house and all of his antiques and stuff, because he apparently had a whole bunch of stuff. Ended up raising about $127,000, although a lot of that went to his legal fees. This businessman from Kansas City, Missouri, named Dell Dunmeyer, bought the guy's house. And he said, oh, well, I didn't have any, interest in him specifically, but I understood him. Which I was like, let's put that guy on a watch list. But he actually had the house torn down, and I think he sold half of the property, to each person on either side of the house. So I'm like, I'm not sure if I'd want that land or not. It's like it had fucking heads in it. Who knows? There's probably other fucking bones in there too. It's like, yeah.
I'm hiccuping.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm hiccuping. I'm fighting it.
Like I said, if you want, there's a documentary about this called Bizarre, sometimes called James Elroy Presents Bizarre. It's very funny because it has James Elroy. He's very hard-boiled, and he's talking about what a scumbag this dude is at the beginning, and I just thought it was very funny.
This whole show is becoming a rogues gallery of the world's greatest shitbags that have appeared over the years.
Well, shitbags are way more fun to talk about than nice people.
That's the nature of this show, and this is the entertainment. This is the way entertainment is, and this is also education. We're teaching you guys how bad these motherfuckers can be, and it's bad shit, man. Fucking watch your back. But you also gotta learn to laugh at this kind of shit, because if it gets to you, then you just can't enjoy life. Don't let this shit get to you too much. I mean, it is rare. That's why we're talking about.
That's how I try to think, because I write about this shit 10 hours a day.
It happens, but if it was everywhere, you'd be used to it and you wouldn't care because you would know all about this. But people are fucking drawn to it because this is very unusual.
Because it's unusual. It's something that doesn't impact most people in their day-to-day lives.
It's
That's
extreme behavior.
Yeah.
But if you go back over our shows and then we've talked about, these dudes all give off warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
The average person wouldn't come in contact with this guy. I mean, the dude hung out with bum junkies.
Yeah.
In some kind of weird, really 2-bit homosexual underground. I mean, this is the bottom of the gay scene. Real gay dudes are in fantastic fucking clubs making a shit ton of money. Okay? Fucking dancing. And they got good taste and shit. You know what I'm talking about? They're not these fuckers.
Well, like I said, a lot of these were just like teenagers. A lot of them were homeless.
They're drug addicts.
And it sucks too, because probably, especially back in that time, and I know I've written about a few cases, where this happened particularly, especially back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you came out as gay, you got kicked out your house. They didn't care if you were 14 years old. And so a lot of them ended up on the street, whether they wanted to or not. And then they would end up having to turn to prostitution because they didn't have any other way to make money. So I feel like that's like another level, because he's like just taking advantage of of these people too. But
even in the 80s, the average gay dude that had his fucking wherewithal fucking would have nothing to do with these dudes.
Yeah, like I said, this is
it's not the normal.
It's thing. Just kind of like the thing, it's the same kind of thing as like serial killers that target prostitutes,
right? It's the
because they're it's easy. They're just on the street. They'll get in your car with you.
And most straight people aren't into that. That's just that's the dregs, basically.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's somebody that. I mean, this guy was obviously not a millionaire or anything like that, but he had a house and he could hold kind of a business. Yeah, and he could like loan them money and give them food when they didn't have it, or drugs when they didn't have it.
Kids.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And like I said, I feel like because he never made anything of himself, even though like I feel like he felt like he should have.
Right.
But he could have power over these powerless little kids, pretty much. I mean, they were just teenagers, most of them.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was where he was coming from with that kind of shit. Yeah, no kidding. There was also a movie that came out in 2009 just called Berdella, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's any good. So if any of you guys have seen it, but it's, obviously based on this douchebag. So if anybody has seen it, let me know if it's any good, because I kind of want to check it out, but, I didn't get around to it before the show. Yeah. All right, so we are going to wrap up the show about Robert Berdella, a.k.a. the Kansas City Butcher, a.k.a. the Collector. Hope you guys sort of enjoyed it, If enjoyed is the right word. I hate to use that word because...
It's an entertaining experience to us.
It is, yeah. And, Tom is still fairly coherent.
I'm fairly coherent. I'm just hoping that the next show will be something that is not so dark and so depressing, something that won't be...
Well, the next one we're going to do that cult thing.
Oh, NXIVM cult. No, we got to talk about NXIVM cult. Yeah.
So that's still
a current event.
That's still kind of depressing, because it's like Scientology.
Nobody got killed in that one, though, as far as I know.
As far as we know.
Yeah. We'll see.
If it's anything like Scientology.
That seemed to be kind of like consensual weirdos, I think. Maybe. We'll see.
I'm not so sure about that.
Well,
but yeah, we'll see.
Well, you could say Scientology's consensual. You could break in. You could probably go to a Scientology.
Not for the kids born into it today.
Not the kids, but you could go to one of those Scientology prisons that they have. What's it called? Gold Base.
Yeah.
And go right into that Scientology prison where Mike Render and all these other guys. I think his name was Mike Render. I forgot what it was. And you couldn't break them out of prison. They go, no, this is my religious decision to be in this prison. That's how weird they were.
Y'all got
They're
problems.
like that. That's bad when you go, no, I'm going to stay here in this religious
I don't understand. Like, I might get into this a little bit more when we do the show about that cult next week, but it's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not going to shit on anybody that needs, like, any kind of self-help type shit, because I know some people are into that.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not the most, like, psychologically stable person ever, but...
You're pretty stable.
I don't... I just have never understood that the... desire for that, because I feel like, here's the thing,
you're already telegraphing you got a weakness when you show up, I'll tell you that.
Well, one, that too, and I don't like to do that,
right?
But two, it's like, how does a person who does not know me know what I should do or know what is best for me? Nobody's me but me.
What they're going to do is they're going to do a process similar to the military.
Yeah, I know.
Where they're going to fucking put you under a bunch of stress and
they're going to break you down and build you back up.
That's what they're going to do.
That's every cult does that. The military does that. Everybody does that.
And you're doing this to, look, I went through that. I fucking loved it. Okay, because I understood what the process was. But what you're doing to a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old kid, you know what I mean, to get him ready for military duty, it's totally justifiable what they're doing.
Well, yeah, because that's like a means to an end. I understand it in a military capacity.
Right. You cannot have a bunch of dudes that sit around and have to have fucking blow pops and fucking have to do
or who want to like go off and do their own
shit, and they gotta watch fucking.
They have to work as a team. They have to do what they're told.
I mean, you're gonna have bitches in there that have
or people will get killed.
Captain Crunch cereal. If they don't have Captain Crunch cereal, then they can't. How are you gonna send a dude in combat where he can't function without Captain Crunch cereal? You can't. So you have to knock all that. I gotta have my cartoons. You gotta knock all that shit out of them. you know,
Yeah.
and make them grow up, because some of these kids come from families where there were, you know, improper parenting or no father, you know, no father figure, so they just don't have any adult skills, you know. See, a lot of them do, you know, but some of them don't. So military training actually ensures, you know what I mean, that the new soldier has what he needs to continue his mission, if you know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, I know.
You know,
I'm just
you have
saying
to
I
erase a bunch of old
don't
programming.
know why like anyone would subject themselves to something like Scientology or anything like that. I just don't understand it. Well, because one, I wouldn't, because I hate being told what to do. It's like my least favorite thing ever.
I'm gonna explain it to you. I'm gonna explain it to you.
He's mansplaining again.
I'm gonna mansplain this. I'm not gonna explain. I'm gonna mansplain. A person joins Scientology for the same reason a dude joins a fucking karate dojo.
Yeah.
All
There's
right?
I know.
There's an element of
similarities.
LARPing in the shit too.
I know.
Okay. Something, you know, he got his ass whipped, so he's gonna go to the dojo and he's gonna become a fucking ninja. Okay, that's the thinking. All right. Now, how is he gonna become a ninja? Well, he's gonna become a ninja the easiest way he can become a ninja. The guys are gonna sell him all this kind of bullshit if it's a fucked up dojo, where they're gonna teach him a 1-inch death punch or some shit like that. And then when he gets done with that, he'll feel better that he can take out a man 5 times his size with a fucking touch.
This is the plot of this movie, The Art of Self-Defense, by the way.
No, that's
sort of.
But I've been doing my research on that shit, and that's exactly what it is. It's very much kind of like Eugene Sandow's method of becoming a big motherfucker using 5-pound weights. You can't do it.
Well, it's just like every infomercial that you ever saw on late night TV.
There you go.
It's like everything, like every weight loss product, everything,
it's
because
easy.
Everybody wants something easy.
It's
I'm just
easy.
going to buy this one pill
And it's going to fix it.
and it's going to fix it.
And it's going to be easy.
I'm going to buy this one kitchen tool and it's going to fix it.
And once I buy it, and
it's
I do
not going to fix it.
I won't have to worry about it ever again.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, bullshit. It ain't gonna fix nothing.
Life is a bitch.
Life's
It's always
a bitch.
throwing obstacles up in front of you. I'm not saying that you should be like pessimistic or nothing, because I'm not. But I'm just saying you have to understand that your whole entire life is just going to be an uphill struggle. Yeah. It's like when you're at the beach and the waves keep crashing over your face and you have to just keep swimming out. It's just like that your whole entire life, and that's how it's going to be till you die.
Eugene Sandow made a fucking living off of fucking being an old-timey strongman in the early 1900s, lifting these heavy-ass fucking weights in front of a live crowd that was just amazed at this dude, okay, because he was huge for his time. And then he sold them little 5-pound weights and told them, if you read this book, with this little 5-pound weight, you'll be as strong as me. They bought those weights, went thank you, and they went home. Maybe they did it a couple times and they forgot all about it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Well,
and he made his money.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It's just like every single like exercise equipment company. It's like every time New Year's comes around and everybody makes a resolution.
They're gonna buy that
I'm gonna work out, so they buy it. They spend like $500 buying an exercise bike or something. Use it a couple times and they never use it.
Yeah, and they say how easy it is. And they're gonna give them the fucking easiest fucking thing to do. Is just keep doing that. You'll lose. Yeah. No.
You know what my
Eugene
favorite?
Sandow got big for. Listen, he lifted heavy fucking weights and he worked out fucking every day.
My favorite exercise product. And this is going back to like the late 80s or early 90s, like one of those infomercials. My favorite one was like the step aerobics thing. And it was just like a plastic block. And it was like you just stepped up on it, stepped down on it, stepped up on it, stepped down on it, stepped down on it.
Yeah.
But and the thing was like $19.99 or however much it was. I'm like, can you just not do that with a dictionary or something? It's like, why do you need to buy that?
You could put a cinder block over there.
And do that. You could do that with literally anything. Yeah. It's like, because that is good, like doing steps, like if you do enough of it, but you don't need to pay $19.99 for this specially molded, like, aqua colored, like, plastic thing.
And then the model that's doing it, of course, is totally physically fit and fucking gorgeous.
Well, yeah, they get fitness models too. They didn't get fit doing that.
They didn't get fit doing that shit. Fuck no.
Well, it's just like all the people that they put in the weight loss pill commercials and everything. Yeah. They don't use that shit.
Nope.
Don't fall for that.
Nope. That's what Scientology is, and that's what all those cults are.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just, it's the same thing. It's snake oil.
Yep.
They're just selling you snake oil.
Yep.
They think that it will make your life easier. It doesn't. Nothing will. You just have to like power through, man, just like everybody else does. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Yeah, you should. It's getting late.
we are ending episode 155. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you'd like to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a little button in the sidebar that it goes to a PayPal account. If you'd like to give a one-time donation, it would be very much appreciated. Also, we have a Zazzle store. A couple people have been asking about that. We have like t-shirts and stuff. There's a link down in the description. We're also going to start doing our own screen printed shirts and do an eBay store.
Well, we're doing it already.
We just haven't got around to putting up shirts on the eBay store yet.
Yeah.
We just gave out to our patrons last time. But yeah, so that'll do it for this episode. We will see you next time. Bye.